Monsters, those dreadful creatures of the night, strike fear into the hearts of even the bravest souls. With their grotesque forms and ominous presence, they are the stuff of nightmares. When they roar, the very earth seems to tremble, and their mouths, a gaping maw of darkness, reveal rows of jagged teeth that can tear through hope and courage. The sounds of their monstrous voices reverberate in the darkness, echoing the deepest fears of our imagination. It is in the face of such terrifying beasts that the true test of valor emerges, for to confront them is to stand at the threshold of pure, spine-chilling horror. In the midst of chaos and pandemonium, as the monster's deafening roar shattered the tranquility of the scene, people scrambled desperately for safety. Panic reigned supreme, and some onlookers were paralyzed by the sheer horror of the creature's grotesque visage. However, among the petrified crowd, one young boy defied the odds. He gazed intently at the approaching monster, his hair concealing his eyes, but his unwavering determination clear. As the monstrous being drew nearer, the boy remained resolute, refusing to flinch. Suddenly, an excruciating pain surged through his hand, as if some inexplicable transformation was unfolding. The agony intensified, causing his eyes to widen in shock. He collapsed to the ground, his anguished cries piercing the chaotic air. It felt as though a relentless bolt of lightning had struck him, and there was no escape from the torment. The boy rose up with all the pain, fighting against this force with all his strength. Amid this electrifying torment, a small, luminous sphere began to take shape. Slowly, it transcended the boundaries of time and space, steadily approaching the young boy who was now fast asleep. The sphere entered his body through his forehead, and in an instant, he jolted awake. His eyes flickered with a newfound awareness, for something extraordinary had transpired. As the boy woke from his vivid experience, a tinge of disappointment lingered in his thoughts. It had felt like a dream, one where he might have been unlocking some hidden talent or power. But now, as the vision faded, he questioned whether it had all been a product of his awakening process. Lost in introspection, he grappled with questions that had no instant answers. The boundaries between reality and the surreal had blurred, leaving him with a profound sense of wonder and uncertainty. 100 years ago, an abundance of spatial rifts manifested in the skies above our world. Through these rifts emerged formidable interdimensional creatures, posing an imminent threat to the very existence of humanity. Paradoxically, the influx of dimensional energy had a transformative impact, awakening latent abilities within select individuals. This pivotal development heralded the dawn of the era of talents, an age where these gifted few would play a crucial role in shaping the destiny of humankind. A sudden rap on the door disrupted the train of thought for the young boy. It was his sister, checking in on his progress and inquiring whether he had completed the awakening of his innate ability. Glancing at the evaluation device, the boy sighed in disappointment. He found himself still stuck in the realm of a weak-tier talent, a disheartening realization that seemed to foretell a challenging future. If he couldn't ascend to the ranks of a martial warrior, how would he ever fulfill his duty to protect his beloved sister in the years to come? This weighty concern troubled him deeply. Just then, unable to contain her curiosity any longer, his sister cautiously opened the door and eagerly asked about the status of his talent evaluation. In an attempt to shield her from worry, the boy resorted to a white lie, claiming that the results were outstanding. Relief washed over his sister's face, as if she had been waiting for this moment with bated breath. With a radiant smile, the boy assured her that he was destined to become an exceptionally powerful martial warrior. Her eyes lit up with joy as she exclaimed her unwavering belief in her big brother's abilities. The young girl excitedly informed her brother that she had prepared his favorite meal to celebrate his talent awakening. With her words still echoing in the air, she dashed out of the room. In the midst of her departure, the boy couldn't help but notice a status window that had popped up, revealing intriguing information about his little sister. Her name, EU, was prominently displayed, along with her unawakened frost talent. Curiosity piqued, the boy fumbled with the status window, shifting his attention to his own details. His name, Etienne, was listed, but it also emphasized his weak-tier cultivation talent. Etienne found himself engulfed in a sea of confusion, struggling to make sense of the unfolding situation. As he pondered this mysterious turn of events, EU returned and gently grasped her brother's hand, urging him to join her for the meal. Just as he was about to follow her, a second window unexpectedly appeared, inquiring if he wished to copy EU's talents. Etienne was momentarily taken aback, a sense of surprise washing over him as he discovered his newfound ability to copy the talents of others. This revelation offered a glimmer of hope, dispelling the notion of hopelessness that had previously clouded his path. The siblings arrived at the dining table and savored the braised pork prepared by EU. Amid the delicious meal, Etienne's thoughts couldn't help but gravitate towards the remarkable prospect of talent copying. However, he was hesitant to test it on his younger sister, so he decided to decline the offer presented by the mysterious window. Etienne recognized that Yu's innate talent surpassed his own, and her rare frost ability would undoubtedly make her a formidable force once awakened. In this moment, thoughts of their parents flooded his mind, and he felt a growing desire to reassure them that he was no longer devoid of potential, and that he could provide for and protect Yu. The following morning, Etienne embarked on a quest to test his newfound ability. His focus was on the people milling about in the streets, and he soon discovered that the effective range for inspecting someone's talent extended only up to 3 meters. While it may have been limited in scope, Etienne was undeterred. Within this range, he identified several individuals possessing low-tier talents and realized that he needed to copy a mid-tier talent to advance. With his own talent awakened, Etienne made the decision to attend an academy. However, he was aware that the act of copying someone else's talent could potentially alter his own, rendering him ineligible for academies requiring talent evaluations. In a moment of inspiration, he arrived at the Linhai-based 5th Academy. Recognizing that this institution likely housed numerous individuals with mid-tier talents, he was determined to leverage his newfound ability to surpass all of them in the future. 10 days later, within the confines of Linhai-based 5th Academy, Martial Stadium No. 3, a group of students engaged in rigorous training. Their instructor left no room for ambiguity, emphasizing that to ascend to the ranks of a martial warrior, one must first traverse the path of a martial apprentice. A key component of this journey was mastering the body training technique, which they began to learn. Their teacher set a clear goal before them. Success hinged on the ability to manifest an air vortex in front of their chests. The students fervently pursued this objective, striving to create the elusive vortex. Yet, amid their efforts, a cry of distress pierced the air as one student fell unconscious. The instructor callously dismissed this setback, labeling those who couldn't keep up as useless pieces of trash. He stressed that the creation of an air vortex was just the most rudimentary step in the journey towards becoming a martial warrior, a stark reminder that they were merely scratching the surface. Etienne, deeply concerned, watched as his peers made progress. Unable to manifest anything himself, he began to doubt whether his talent level was too low to accomplish this basic feat. As the training session concluded, the teacher announced the end of the day's activities and voiced his disappointment, proclaiming this group of students as the worst he had ever taught. He expressed his desire that they draw inspiration from someone like Chen Dong and maintain a higher level of motivation, admonishing them not to become a group of idle learners. Etienne found it increasingly difficult to tolerate the teacher's sharp-witted remarks, and a sense of frustration gnawed at him. While strolling around the campus, Etienne decided to inquire about Chen Dong from his classmate, Zhang Bao. Zhang Bao shared some intriguing details, revealing that Chen Dong was no ordinary individual. Remarkably, he had ascended to the rank of martial apprentice in just half a month, an achievement that had led the principal to take him as his disciple. This clearly indicated Chen Dong's exceptionally high talent level. Zhang Bao proudly displayed a signature of Chen Dong, explaining that when Chen Dong reached the same level as the principal, his autograph would likely fetch a price equivalent to several months' worth of living expenses. Etienne, feeling somewhat overwhelmed by this information, could only manage an awkward laugh to conclude the conversation. A crowd had gathered on the campus, and there, in the midst of it all, was Chen Dong, waving to the excited onlookers. Zhang Bao, overcome with excitement, couldn't resist and dashed through the crowd to secure another autograph. Etienne felt fortunate to witness the person who had been the talk of the campus. As he observed Chen Dong, busy interacting with the members of his mini-fan club, Etienne took the opportunity to scan him discreetly, discovering that Chen Dong possessed a mid-tier cultivation talent. Encouraged by this revelation, Etienne decided to step forward and greet Chen Dong. Chen Dong, representing the teachers, called for everyone to relax and then brushed aside the idea of autographs. In response, Etienne swiftly suggested that a simple handshake would suffice. Zhang Bao, on the other hand, was open to anything. Chen Dong agreed, and a modest fan meet began, fostering a brief but memorable connection with the admired figure. Finally, it was Etienne's turn to greet Chen Dong. As they shook hands, the transfer of talent occurred once again. Etienne felt the power of this newfound talent surging within him. Determined to explore this mysterious ability, he sought out a secluded place, a cave, while the rain poured heavily outside. Within this shelter, the status window appeared once more, inquiring if Etienne wished to merge the copied talent. Contemplating the potential consequences of such an action, he hesitated. Memories of the excruciating pain he had experienced before resurfaced, and he remained unsure about the outcome. However, at this moment, Yi Tian was focused solely on this new path he was embarking on. He swiftly made the decision to fuse the talents. Assuming a meditation posture, he began the process. Almost immediately, intense pain gripped him, causing him to clench his chest, wondering why the fusion was so agonizing. As the torrential rain continued outside, the heavens themselves seemed to echo the tumult within him, with lightning striking fiercely in the tempestuous night. After a couple of minutes, the status window reappeared, revealing that Yi Tian now possessed a mid-tier cultivation talent. The torment he had endured to change his talent and be reborn as someone new had been entirely worth it. The status window also displayed a cooldown timer of 30 days, indicating that Yi Tian could continue copying talents at regular intervals. The newfound ability held tremendous promise. Filled with determination, Yi Tian decided to practice the body training technique. Within seconds, he effortlessly activated the air vortex. The once seemingly unattainable goal of becoming a martial warrior now appeared within his grasp. Forget about a martial warrior. This guy Yi Tian was now going to become an elite martial warrior, and even a great martial warrior. A month later, on a dark and foreboding night, a wolf-like monster with menacingly sharp teeth prowled the streets, driven by a primal thirst for its next prey. As it moved stealthily through the shadows, a father and his daughter strolled down the same street, making their way home with joyful plans for a delightful dinner. Unbeknownst to them, danger lurked nearby. Yi Tian, lost in his own thoughts, also walked along the same street. Suddenly, a dreadful aura surged past him and directly leaped towards the father and daughter. In a swift and brutal assault, the monster attacked the father, causing the little girl to scream in terror and anguish as she witnessed her father's plight. Yi Tian, too, was horrified by this incident. Amidst the horrified pedestrians who had witnessed the gruesome attack, panic and chaos erupted as news of the monster's presence quickly spread. The once calm street was now a scene of chaos, with people running in all directions to escape the perceived threat of a monster that had taken a life. Yi Tian finally comprehended the gravity of the situation, acknowledging the creature before him as a true monster. The beast bared its teeth, emitting a menacing roar, and prepared to pounce on the grieving little girl who stood beside her father's lifeless body. Reacting swiftly, Yi Tian managed to shield the girl from the imminent attack. However, the monster's speed left Yi Tian with no escape route. Just as desperation set in, a warrior arrived on the scene, landing before the monstrous foe. The creature responded with an even fiercer growl. The warrior, who introduced himself as Captain Galewolf, apologized for his late arrival and ordered Yi Tian to ensure the girl's safety while he confronted the silver moon wolf monster. Captain Galewolf, with a calculated bravado, taunted the monster, challenging it to engage him in combat. The silver moon wolf, having waited for an opportunity to strike, lunged ferociously at the captain, initiating a fierce battle that unfolded in a whirlwind of violence. Yi Tian shielded the little girl's eyes, sparing her from the brutality that unfolded. Captain Galewolf acknowledged the monster's strength, recognizing the swiftness of the silver moon wolf as a formidable asset. Yet, the captain was not alone. He had his own teammates. The monster, fueled by a deep rage and bloodlust, focused all its fury on its prey. Just when the silver moon wolf's wrath seemed uncontainable, Captain Galewolf's teammates arrived on the scene, their timing impeccable. Grateful for their support, the captain's squad smoothly integrated into the fight, collectively confronting the formidable adversary. After a series of intense exchanges, there was a moment of pause. It seemed as though the monster might be defeated, but in a shocking turn of events, the silver moon wolf rose to its feet once more, its growls still echoing with ferocity. The battle was far from over. The situation took a critical turn as the silver moon wolf entered a bloodburst mode, signaling increased danger to all involved. Captain Galewolf's teammates ensured their leader was unharmed, and they collectively decided to focus their efforts on the enraged monster that was attempting to flee. The captain reassured them that there was no need to worry, the creature wasn't going anywhere. Just then, another skilled warrior entered the scene, a proficient archer with a keen eye. With remarkable precision, she shot an arrow that struck the silver moon wolf directly, causing the beast to collapse lifeless. Captain Galewolf expressed his belief that the monster had been too weak to contend with them. The team conversed casually, admiring the female warrior's exceptional sniping skills. However, Yi Tian noticed something astonishing. A status window appeared, displaying the monster's talents, a revelation that piqued his curiosity. As Yi Tian examined the status window displaying the monster's talents, a sudden movement caught his attention. The silver moon wolf, which was presumed dead, stirred to life. Wearied from the battle, the warriors were preparing to head out for a well-deserved drink. Captain Galewolf swiftly recognized the situation and warned everyone to be on guard. He declared that the Silver Moon Wolf was still alive, instructing the team to retreat immediately. The injured monster emitted even more ferocious growls, displaying an astonishing tenacity. Monsters were indeed formidable adversaries, and this one, in particular, proved to be relentless. Concerned team members turned to the captain for guidance, asking what they should do next. Captain Galewolf reassured his teammates, urging them not to be concerned and to leave the matter in his capable hands. He emphasized that the monster's current state was weakened, and they were unlikely to face further issues. Captain Galewolf then turned to Etienne, advising him that the area was no longer safe and instructing him to leave immediately. Yet, Etienne remained immobile, seemingly unresponsive to the captain's instructions. Frustrated, Captain Galewolf raised his voice, urging Etienne to move to a safer location. However, Etienne viewed this situation as a perfect opportunity for his newfound abilities. Etienne, driven by determination, rushed towards the monster and unleashed a barrage of relentless punches. Through this direct and intense contact, Etienne managed to absorb all of the Silver Moon Wolf's talents. With each strike and the increasing physical interaction, he successfully copied every aspect of the creature's abilities. The once silver monster gradually turned a deep shade of blood red as Etienne assailed it from every angle. Blood stained the ground and covered not only the monster but also Etienne himself. Yet, he continued his assault, not matter what. Captain Galewolf, recognizing the dire circumstances, finally intervened. He pulled Etienne away from the lifeless monster, declaring that it was already deceased. The Silver Moon Wolf lay motionless, its once fearsome visage now forever stilled. The crucial talent copying process had been a success. Captain Galewolf then directed his team to clean up the area, instructing his teammates to remove the bodies of the man and the Silver Moon Wolf. He also assigned the task of comforting the frightened little girl to the female warrior. Before parting ways, Captain Galewolf bid farewell to Etienne, expressing his anticipation of seeing Etienne in his Galewolf squad once he achieved the status of a martial warrior. Etienne eagerly agreed, looking forward to joining this promising team. Upon arriving home, Etienne made it a priority to wash the blood from his face. He realized that the sight of it might cause concern for EU. After this arduous encounter, he finally felt a sense of peace wash over him. Upon entering the room to check on his little sister, EU was already fast asleep, but she seemed to sense her big brother's return. She had even prepared dinner for him. Etienne let out a sigh as he reflected on the day's events. It had been a day of firsts, as he had witnessed a real monster with his own eyes for the very first time. Indeed, the monster he had encountered was far more terrifying than any creatures he had heard of in stories. The encounter had left a lasting impact on him, making him more aware of the dangers that existed in the world around them. As he tenderly covered EU with a blanket, Etienne's determination solidified. He understood that, to protect his beloved little sister, he needed to expedite his journey to becoming a martial warrior. Etienne returned to his room, his mind consumed by the question of whether the talents of monsters could be integrated into a human's body. He accessed the system to investigate. The information he found indicated that such a fusion might indeed be possible, but it could be even more painful, and potentially life-threatening compared to his previous talent fusion. However, Etienne was unwavering in his determination. He understood that he needed to grow stronger to safeguard the people who were dear to him, no matter the sacrifices or challenges that lay ahead. Etienne, determined to strengthen himself, selected the speed talent and initiated the copying process. However, the experience proved excruciating. He described the pain as feeling like his bones were breaking apart one by one. The agony overwhelmed him, and he screamed in both pain and fear when he noticed his leg becoming disfigured. It appeared as if Etienne was undergoing a transformation, resembling the Silver Moon Wolf monster. His leg was now broken, and he feared that the talent copying process had failed. In this moment of anguish, EU would react when she discovered the truth about his actions and their potential consequences. The next morning, Etienne awoke with a start, still haunted by the memory of the painful transformation he had undergone. However, as he examined his body, everything appeared to be as it should, including his feet. Etienne couldn't contain his excitement as he tested the newly acquired speed talent. He felt his body become remarkably agile, and he leaped in joy as he experienced the newfound lightness. He hurriedly checked the status window, confirming that the talent copying had indeed been a total success. The abilities he had obtained from the Silver Moon Wolf monster were now his to command. In a secluded grove within the 5th Academy, Etienne ventured along a less traveled path, leaping and bounding through the area. His newfound speed talent proved to be truly remarkable, enabling him to navigate the terrain with exceptional efficiency. He gracefully jumped over substantial hills and various obstacles, demonstrating the agility he had gained. While he was testing his speed, Etienne noticed a falling leaf and decided to challenge himself by trying to reach it before it touched the ground. With the swiftness of a silver moon wolf, he successfully achieved this feat, validating the incredible abilities he had acquired. Satisfied with his performance, he returned to his meditation pose. As Etienne contemplated his newfound speed, he recognized that it now rivaled that of a martial warrior. However, his overall strength was still significantly lacking. He pondered if there might be a way to enhance his cultivation speed when his friend Zhang Bao called out to him. Zhang Bao had been searching for Etienne for a while, and was pleased to find him training. Zhang Bao, noticing Etienne's improved physique, inquired if he had advanced to the martial apprentice stage. Etienne replied affirmatively. Zhang Bao then presented an intriguing proposition. He asked Etienne if he wanted to become even stronger at an accelerated rate, and inquired if Etienne had ever considered drinking monster blood. Etienne had never consumed monster blood before, and Zhang Bao explained the truth behind his own rapid improvement. He had been advancing faster than Etienne because he had been drinking monster blood. This revelation surprised Etienne, as he had never been aware of the potent effects that monster blood could have on one's abilities. In hindsight, he regretted not extracting blood from the silver moon wolf he had encountered, realizing it had been a missed opportunity. Intrigued by the prospect of acquiring monster blood, Etienne asked Zhang Bao for more details. Zhang Bao disclosed that there was a way to obtain monster blood and inquired if Etienne was interested. Eager to learn more, Etienne demanded to know the specifics. Zhang Bao explained that the higher-ups of their Linhai base had established a new wild zone outside the city. This area served as an examination zone for the 5 major academies, with the prize for success being the coveted monster blood. Etienne was clearly interested in the prospect but wanted to gather more information. He questioned Zhang Bao about the level of the wild zone, to which Zhang Bao confidently replied that it was relatively low, with most of the monsters having already been eliminated. What remained were the descendants of these monsters, which were more like beasts than their fearsome ancestors. This description of the situation seemed to make it an enticing opportunity for Etienne, and he recognized the potential benefits. However, instead of immediately accepting Zhang Bao's proposal, he pretended to be only mildly interested. Zhang Bao was surprised by Etienne's response and asked what he meant by it. He explained that he had shared this information with Etienne because he considered him a good friend and wanted to offer him a chance to improve his abilities. In response to Zhang Bao's invitation, Etienne apologized and politely declined. He offered the classic reply that he would definitely join Zhang Bao's squad next time, which left Zhang Bao visibly upset. He expressed his disappointment, saying he thought they were good friends and didn't expect Etienne to be so cold-hearted. Ignoring Zhang Bao's frustration, Etienne walked briskly, leaving his friend behind. Zhang Bao called out to him, asking him to wait, emphasizing that they were still friends, regardless of whether they teamed up or not. Etienne had his own reasons for declining, knowing that joining others might expose his unique abilities, potentially putting him in danger. He believed that going it alone was the safer choice. His determination to obtain monster blood and advance to the martial warrior realm remained unwavering. A month later, at the 5th Academy's main office, the head instructor was giving Etienne a stern scolding, demanding to know why Etienne had signed up for the exam without receiving an exam invitation. He even speculated whether someone had leaked this information. In response, Etienne calmly explained that he had already become a martial apprentice, which, in his understanding, made him eligible to sign up. The professor, amused by what he considered Etienne's foolishness, openly expressed his lack of faith in the abilities of such seemingly weak individuals. In a dramatic gesture, he tossed a form directly at Etienne's face, creating a tense atmosphere in the room. As Etienne bent down to retrieve the form, his eyes fell on the title, which indicated that it was a life responsibility agreement. The professor then explained that signing this agreement was a prerequisite for taking the exam. Despite the professor's rudeness, Etienne remained composed. He signed the form and left the office. The professor, seemingly enjoying his own rudeness, couldn't resist making fun of Etienne. He believed that Etienne was mistaken if he thought the exam was meant for poor individuals like him and predicted that Etienne would eventually come to regret his decision. Iyu's day began with her waking up and rubbing her eyes as she looked around the room, searching for her older brother. She called out to Etienne to make sure he was up on time. As she got out of bed and made her way to the kitchen, she was met with a pleasant surprise. The table was adorned with a delicious breakfast, and she couldn't help but wonder what the occasion was as her big bro cooked such a feast. Upon closer inspection, Iyu discovered a small note left by Etienne. The note explained that the school had an event, and he would be away for 3 days. This news left Iyu both curious and concerned. She wondered what kind of event would require her big brother to be gone for 3 days and if he would be facing any danger during his absence. The uncertainty lingered in her mind as she began her day. Here, Etienne arrived at the exam venue, which looked creepy as hell. He was struck by the eerie atmosphere that surrounded it. He couldn't help but notice the large number of participants present, most of whom were from the 5 major academies. Zhang Bao, who was with him, confirmed that all these individuals came from prestigious backgrounds. However, the scene took a sinister turn when one of the students from another academy noticed the presence of 5th Academy students. He openly disparaged them, referring to them as scums from the so-called garbage academy who had the audacity to participate in the exam. A bodyguard standing nearby whispered to his young master that they could hunt both beasts and weaker participants during the exam, implying that having more weaklings around would be advantageous. The young master, with a sinister laugh, declared that the weak should consider themselves fortunate to be hunted by the strong. Zhang Bao took the opportunity to introduce Mo Xiaobei to Etienne from a distance, pointing out that Mo Xiaobei was a genius from the 1st Academy and considered the strongest among the younger generation of the Mo family. Etienne had been observing Mo Xiaobei for a while and could now understand why he carried an air of arrogance about him. However, their conversation was interrupted when another warrior student appeared, drawing his unsheathed sword. Mo Xiaobei was immediately offended and loudly demanded that the newcomer stop and identify himself. He expressed his displeasure at the newcomer for entering the 1st Academy's camp with an unsheathed sword. The newly arrived student responded by calling out to Mo Xiaobei, daring to bring his ass over, as he intended to cut him into pieces. Mo Xiaobei, upon recognizing this challenger, asked if the newcomer wanted to lose to him again. The two of them exchanged a challenging look and shared wicked smiles, indicating a deep-seated rivalry. Etienne's curiosity got the better of him, and he inquired about the new student who had just entered the arena. Zhang Bao informed Etienne that the newcomer's name was Lai Yongxing, a talented swordsman from the 2nd Academy. Zhang Bao also mentioned that Lai Yongxing had been defeated by Mo Xiaobei in the past. Their conversation caught the attention of the 5th Academy's head instructor, who taunted them by calling them ignorant peasants. He scolded them, warning them to stop fooling around, and asked if they were blind. Etienne, annoyed by the professor's condescending attitude, silently expressed his frustration. Then, unexpectedly, he started shouting and cheering for Lai Yongxing, seemingly out of nowhere. Even Lai Yongxing was taken aback by this sudden show of support, wondering who Etienne was and why he was cheering for him. Lai Yongxing couldn't help but feel awkward and questioned whether Etienne had no fear of Mo Xiaobei. Etienne continued to cheer for Lai Yongxing and urged him to take on that scoundrel, Mo Xiaobei. However, their confrontation was cut short by loud announcements that fighting was strictly prohibited outside the wild zone, and offenders would be disqualified from the exam. Lai Yongxing, despite his initial frustration, decided to spare Mo Xiaobei for the time being and sheathed his sword. He declared that once they were inside the wild zone, he would have the opportunity to give Mo Xiaobei a sound beating. Mo Xiaobei seemed equally eager to fight Lai Yongxing, referring to him as an undisciplined mutt. Lai Yongxing, appreciating the support from Etienne, approached him and praised him for having the courage to cheer him on. He then inquired about Etienne's name, to which Etienne introduced himself formally. Lai Yongxing expressed his liking for Etienne's name and explained its Chinese meaning, fostering a sense of camaraderie between them. While Etienne was interacting with Lai Yongxing, he was also busy scanning Lai Yongxing's talents. He discovered that Lai Yongxing possessed a decent mid-tier sword talent. Wanting to show his support and encouragement, Etienne extended his hand for a handshake and cheered Lai Yongxing on, urging him to surpass Mo Xiaobei in the Wild Zone exam. Lai Yongxing was initially surprised but then responded with a warm smile, extending his hand to shake Etienne's. He wished Etienne good luck and advised him to come out of the exam alive. Etienne, in turn, promised that he would do his best. During this exchange, Etienne successfully copied Lai Yongxing's sword talent, adding it to his own growing repertoire of abilities. As an announcement rang out, it signaled the commencement of the exams. The 1st Academy was called to enter the Wild Zone, and their students hurriedly made their way inside. Mo Xiaobei was the first to enter, displaying a determined demeanor. Zhang Bao, brimming with excitement, informed Etienne that the exams had officially begun and that he needed to find his team. He assured Etienne that they would meet inside and departed. Etienne wished him to be careful. Lai Yongxing, who stood next to Etienne, explained that the 1st Academy was going in first, followed by his 2nd Academy, and Etienne's 5th Academy would be the last to enter. He expressed his frustration with the world's cruelty and unfairness, emphasizing the disadvantaged position they were in. Etienne bid farewell to Lai Yongxing and watched as he departed to rejoin his team, both of them wishing each other good luck in the upcoming trials. With Lai Yongxing gone, Etienne quickly made his way to an isolated area in the woods, taking a moment to assess if this location would offer sufficient cover. Once he was satisfied with his chosen spot, he decided it was time to fuse the mid-tier sword talent he had copied from Lai Yongxing. The status window popped up, inquiring whether he wanted to proceed with the fusion. Etienne gave an affirmative response, initiating the fusion process. The familiar pain surged through Etienne's body, but he had already endured this ordeal twice before. He steeled himself, determined to grow even stronger despite the discomfort. With the fusion complete, Etienne smoothly tested his newly acquired sword talent, finding that it worked wonders. He opened the status window and confirmed that the sword talent had been successfully added to his list of exquisite talents, further boosting his confidence. As the first 4 academies had already entered the wild zone, an announcement signaled that the 5th academy was next in line to enter. The eager students from the 5th academy, both boys and girls, who were determined to prove themselves, prepared to step into the wild zone, ready to face the challenges that awaited them. Entering the wild zone all alone, Etienne immediately sensed a strong energy in the vicinity. The environment was filled with obstacles, but he soon spotted a formidable adversary, a massive green snake with sharp fangs. Without hesitation, Etienne unsheathed his sword and deftly maneuvered around the monster to strike. The monster attempted to evade his attacks, but Etienne's skill was unmatched. In a swift and precise move, he severed the monster's head from its body. The lifeless creature collapsed to the ground with a heavy thud, earning Etienne his first point in the exam. He collected the monster's eyeball and remarked that the savage beast was surprisingly weak. However, he understood that the more savage beasts the students defeated, the higher their ranking would be. Etienne wondered how many points he would need to claim the top spot in the examination. Etienne skimmed through the final awards and realized that he had a long journey ahead to secure a top position. Determined to continue, he shouldered his bag and set out on his quest to hunt more savage beasts. As he resumed his journey, he suddenly stopped upon hearing someone crying out for help. It was a fellow student, surrounded by several menacing monsters, desperately trying to fend them off. To Etienne's surprise, he recognized the distressed student as Zhang Bao, who stood amidst the beasts, declaring that he didn't want to die as he doesn't even have a wife yet. A wolf-like beast prepared to leap and attack Zhang Bao, and Etienne understood the gravity of the situation. In a swift motion, he retrieved an arrow and aimed it at the approaching beast. The arrow hit its mark, fatally injuring the monster and causing it to drop down dead. Zhang Bao, who had just been on the brink of danger, couldn't comprehend how Etienne had swiftly intervened to save him and had also displayed such powerful talents. Etienne joined Zhang Bao and prepared to confront the remaining beasts. He asked Zhang Bao if he could have the points for killing these creatures. Still shaken and worried about his safety, Zhang Bao urged Etienne to run, saying they won't be able to handle the toothed wolf. However, Etienne had other plans. He activated his speed talent and closed in on the vicious beasts. Simultaneously, he activated his sword talent and began slashing at the monsters. With remarkable speed and precision, he launched a series of attacks against the beasts. Zhang Bao stood there, left speechless by Etienne's astonishing display of powerful talents. After the intense battle, the lifeless bodies of the beasts were scattered around the area. Etienne wasted no time and used his sword to cut off the fangs of the monster. He asked Zhang Bao if he could take the wolf fang, and Zhang Bao, still in shock, readily agreed, stating that it was all Etienne's. As they prepared to move on, Etienne asked Zhang Bao if he intended to continue in this state. Zhang Bao admitted that he had given up on the exam because it was too dangerous. He expressed his concern for his teammates, who had been heavily injured, and his main goal was to bring them to safety and ensure their survival. Etienne acknowledged that this was the best course of action, and they agreed to part ways. Before leaving, Zhang Bao warned Etienne about a fake beast lurking in the deeper parts of the wild area, advising him to be cautious. Etienne was intrigued by the concept of a fake beast. Zhang Bao explained that fake beasts were creatures of intermediate danger. He recounted hearing about a student from the first school who had encountered a 10-meter-long spotted snake, which was considered a fake beast, worth a whopping 500 points. The moment Etienne heard about the 500 points, his excitement surged. He pressed Zhang Bao for more information, asking for the direction where the fake beast was last seen. Zhang Bao pointed southeast, and without hesitation, Etienne activated his speed talent and dashed in that direction. A fake beast worth 500 points was a golden opportunity to secure the top position in the exam. Zhang Bao remained behind, deeply concerned, and shouted a warning for Yi Tian to be cautious. Yi Tian came to a sudden halt as he stumbled upon a grim sight, several lifeless bodies wearing the distinctive custom-made shirts of the first school. It was evident that these unfortunate souls were students from the first academy. As he pondered this somber discovery, a thunderous explosion echoed through the vicinity. The noise caught Yi Tian's attention, and he swiftly leaped toward the source of the commotion, ready to investigate. Upon reaching the scene, Yi Tian concealed himself and observed the unfolding situation. His eyes soon fell upon the colossal fake beast, a bizarre hybrid of a snake and a powerfully built humanoid figure with a monstrous head. It was a formidable and menacing creature. The First Academy's students had successfully surrounded the beast, but they seemed hesitant to engage it directly. Mo Xiaobai, taking the lead, issued commands to his comrades, and with determination, they prepared to attack the fake beast. Mo Xiaobai proclaimed that the coveted 500 points now belonged to him, and he initiated the assault on the creature. However, as the battle unfolded, a bodyguard in Mo Xiaobai's group alerted their young master that the fake beast was slowing down and now was the time to strike. The fake beast responded to this threat by growing even more ferocious and powerful. Mo Xiaobai decided to take control of the situation and announced that he would handle the rest of the battle. With a mighty leap, he launched an attack on the monster. Mo Xiaobai's strike found its mark as his sword penetrated the fake beast's head, causing it to collapse to the ground with a resounding thud. Mo Xiaobai triumphantly declared that he had taken down the fake beast and secured the coveted 500 points. Amid the chaos and commotion, onlookers were left wondering whether the beast was truly defeated. Yi Tian couldn't help but regret that he had arrived too late to claim the prize. As there were no further signs of movement from the fallen creature, the bodyguard offered his congratulations to his young master for earning those 500 points. Mo Xiaobai's laughter filled the air as he boldly claimed the top spot in the exam, cheering for his apparent victory. However, his jubilation was short-lived. In the blink of an eye, the fake beast re-emerged, appearing even more formidable and menacing. It had entered a state of heightened aggression, known as blood-burst mode, making it an even deadlier threat. Panic swept through the team members as they realized the beast had not been vanquished. Mo Xiaobai, now fearful, urgently informed everyone that this was not a fake beast but a fully fledged, genuine monster. This revelation sent shockwaves through the students of the First Academy, who began discussing whether it was still worth pursuing a battle with a full-fledged monster. Mo Xiaobai shot a disdainful look at his startled classmates and declared with determination that they were absolutely going to fight this monster since it was worth a staggering 1,000 points. The shock and disbelief resonated deep within the team from the First Academy as they grappled with this revelation. Mo Xiaobai urged them to act quickly, emphasizing that they couldn't afford to let this golden opportunity slip through their fingers to someone else. Resolute, the team regrouped and resumed their relentless assault on the weakened monster. The monster was now teetering on the brink of defeat, and they had to finish it off before anyone else could claim the coveted points. Yi Tian, who had been observing this, felt a sense of relief as he had never expected to encounter a monster worth 1,000 points. Apologizing to the team, he announced that he would reach the monster first, leveraging his exceptional speed. With unwavering determination, Yi Tian unleashed his speed talent to its fullest potential and raced down the path, closely following the monster's trail. Upon reaching an abandoned location, he noticed the telltale signs of the viper's mucus and suspected the monster might be hiding nearby. Standing before an old, desolate building, he knew that the 1,000 points were all his now. Yi Tian carefully explored the abandoned building, and as he ventured deeper, the strong, fishy scent of the scaled snake became increasingly prominent. He knew he was getting closer to the monster. Inside the building, a dark aura enveloped the surroundings, setting an eerie atmosphere. Then, he witnessed something truly extraordinary. The monster he sought was indeed enormous, but what captured his attention was the rare object it was near. The monster in here seemed to be drinking some kind of liquid that was flowing out of that object. This object held a historical rarity, adorned with a sparkling quality that hinted at its uniqueness. Yi Tian couldn't help but wonder about the nature of the liquid that the monster seemed to be drinking. It was evident that this was no ordinary item, and he felt compelled to uncover its secrets. Without further hesitation, Yi Tian unsheathed his sword, resolved to claim the 1,000 points, and then delve into the mystery of this extraordinary discovery. Yi Tian gathered his resolve and leaped forward to attack the monster. Despite the creature appearing absorbed in whatever it was consuming, it was surprisingly quick and dodged his attack with ease. Yi Tian was left astonished at the monster's speed. In response, the monster counterattacked, nearly disarming Etienne and pushing him to the brink of defeat. Seizing the opportunity, the monster growled triumphantly, declaring its imminent victory. Etienne tumbled to the ground, but his sword returned to him just in time. With a renewed determination, he leaped back into the fray, driving his sword deep into the monster's body. The creature howled in agony, and Etienne struggled to withdraw his sword, enduring his own pain. Finally, with a mighty effort, he managed to extricate the sword, and the monster collapsed lifeless onto the ground. Exhausted but victorious, Etienne marveled at the strength of the formidable beast. He acknowledged that without the prior efforts of Moshiabe and his team in weakening the monster, his victory would not have been possible. Etienne decided not to ignore the intriguing, rare object he had come across, recognizing that the fierce beast had a level of spirituality and knowledge beyond his own. He surmised that the object must indeed hold great value. With this in mind, Etienne resolved to investigate further. He began by collecting some of the precious liquid that the beast had been consuming. After this, Etienne used his sword to extract the beast's eye, which was worth 1,000 points, and carefully gathered the blood from the heart of the fearsome creature, a substance of considerable value. Despite these significant finds, Etienne's curiosity continued to be piqued by the mysterious object, and he couldn't help but return to it. Etienne, even though uncertain about the nature of the mysterious object, was determined not to let Moshiabe or anyone else have access to it. With precision and the aid of his sword, he severed the object, which was the source of the precious liquid. After securing his newfound resources, Etienne was confident that these points would help him secure first place in the exam. It was time for him to make his exit. After some time, Moshiabe and his team reached the same location. They immediately noticed that the fierce beast's eye had been removed, and its heart's blood was missing. The bodyguard observed that all that remained was the lifeless body of the fierce beast. Turning to his young master, Moshiabe, he asked what their next course of action should be. Moshiabe clenched his fist in anger and demanded to know who was responsible for this. His fury grew as he declared that he would hunt down and kill whoever had stolen his 1,000 points. Etienne didn't linger around but quickly left the area. However, he was shrewd enough to find a concealed vantage point from which he could observe Moshiabe and his team. The moment they departed, he was already aware of it. Etienne spotted the bodyguard conversing with his young master, suggesting that the thief who stole Moshiabe's points might have hidden and inquired about their next steps. Moshiabe, seething with anger, ordered them to search everyone they encountered because he was resolute in tracking down the culprit. Etienne understood that he had to lay low, so he swiftly moved to a secure hiding place. While searching for this sanctuary, his thoughts revolved around the fact that he couldn't hide forever. In 3 days, when the point calculations commenced, everyone would realize that he was the one who had killed the fierce beast. Thus, Etienne recognized that he needed to make the most of the time remaining to cultivate and become more powerful. He eventually found a secluded spot to take cover. Etienne settled down in his hiding place and took out a bottle of the fierce beast's blood from his collection of treasures. He contemplated how much stronger this blood might make him. Opening the bottle, he allowed the liquid to flow into his mouth. The taste was undeniably awful, and he wished he had some peanuts to mitigate the bitterness. However, he persevered because he knew that to protect his little sister, he needed to become stronger. So, he drank it all, taking the bottle to his lips and gulping down the blood. Meanwhile, back at school, Yiyu couldn't stop sneezing and wondered who might be thinking of her. She then thought about her big brother, Etienne, and hoped that he was doing well. And indeed, he was doing just fine, striving to become stronger to protect those he cared about. Etienne was engrossed in his cultivation, and it didn't take long for him to notice that his cultivation speed had increased almost fourfold. He realized that it wasn't just talent but also the supportive tools that played a crucial role in fast cultivation. Now equipped with this knowledge, he had 2.5 days left to make the best use of all the treasures he had collected. 3 days later, everyone gathered outside the examination venue, and the process of counting the points began. Zhang He scored 10 points, Bao Lei earned 23 points, and Zhu Hai failed to accumulate any points. Lai Yongxing then stepped into the scene, dropping his bag and requesting the teacher to help calculate his points. After the calculation was completed, Lai Yongxing had an impressive total of 195 points. This was quite remarkable. However, Moshiabe made an entrance and downplayed Lai Yongxing's achievement, stating that a mere 195 points was nothing to brag about. He also commented that he hadn't expected Lai Yongxing to have such limited strength. Moshiabe continued to taunt Lai Yongxing, ridiculing him for daring to challenge him with just a few points. This infuriated Lai Yongxing, but he found himself unable to do anything about it. Moshebe then displayed his collected treasures and requested a point calculation. To everyone's amazement, Moshebe scored a whopping total of 427 points. The crowd buzzed with admiration for Moshebe's incredible achievement, discussing the significant gap between his score and those who had barely managed to accumulate 10 to 30 points. Wei Yunxing couldn't contain his anger and accused Moshebe of shamelessly snatching other people's points. Moshebe, however, didn't deny the accusation. Instead, he laughed and asserted that he had taken those points with all his strength, seeing nothing wrong with it. Two students approached to congratulate their senior for securing the first place, but Moshebe promptly corrected them, stating that the first place should have 1,000 or more points, making his ambitions clear. The revelation that the first place should have 1,000 or more points surprised the crowd, who were left wondering how that could be possible. Another teacher chimed in, suggesting that the students who were still alive should have emerged by now, and if they hadn't, they likely perished inside. It seemed like Moshebe's first-place position was secured. However, just as everyone believed the examination had concluded, another student emerged. The crowd grew excited as they saw that it was none other than Etienne. The teacher was shocked to witness Etienne's unexpected appearance, breaking the assumption that those who were still inside must have met their demise. Etienne didn't waste any time and proudly displayed his collection to the teacher. The teacher was genuinely shocked when he saw the fierce monster's eyeballs among Etienne's loot. As Etienne stood there, he exuded a completely different aura. He demanded to know his total points, and the teacher hastily calculated. He then declared that Etienne had scored a total of 1,163 points. The teacher congratulated Etienne on securing the first place in this year's practical exam. As Etienne received his rewards, which included 3 bottles of monster blood and 100,000 yuan in cash, Zhang Bao visibly cheered for him and expressed his admiration. Wei Yunxing couldn't help but wonder how this kid had managed to achieve so much and secure the first place. Meanwhile, Moshebe reveled in the fact that the thief had finally shown his face, never suspecting that the thief could be someone from the 5th Academy. Moshebe immediately ordered his bodyguard to conduct a thorough background check and gather all available information about Etienne. The bodyguard acknowledged the order. Zhang Bao, on the other hand, couldn't contain his excitement and admiration for Etienne. He praised Etienne for demonstrating that he was better than the elite students. Zhang Bao was overjoyed that their 5th Academy had achieved a first-place victory in the practical exam, something they had never expected. They were all puzzled by how Etienne had managed to accomplish this feat. The head instructor of the 5th Academy, however, remarked that Etienne was still an ignorant brat. This response left one student wondering why the teacher didn't seem happy, even though Etienne had brought glory to the 5th Academy. The teacher explained that Etienne had offended a family as powerful as the Mo family, and as a result, he feared that Etienne might soon find himself in a precarious situation. Zhang Bao was offended by the teacher's statement but also concerned about the potential consequences. As the exam officially came to an end, the leaderboard was revealed, with Etienne in first place, followed by Moshebe in second, and Wei Yunxing in third. Officials took photos of the top 3 participants, and they congratulated them on their achievements. It was then announced that the practical examination was now over. Moshebe took the opportunity to speak with Etienne and taunted him, suggesting that Etienne must have had a lot of guts to steal something that belonged to him. Etienne replied cleverly, stating that he could say the same about Moshebe. Wei Yunxing then interjected, taunting Moshebe for forgetting his earlier comments. Moshebe was shocked that he had even engaged with someone like Wei Yunxing, and he asked what he had said. Wei Yunxing explained that, like Moshebe, Etienne had earned his points through skill, so there shouldn't be an issue with it. Moshebe found it amusing that Etienne had his own skills. Later that day, Etienne arrived home, and he happily announced to Yu that he was back. Yu rushed to her big brother with a smile and hugged him tightly. She then asked Etienne what took him so long and where he had been. Concerned about his well-being, Yu asked if he was hurt and insisted on checking for any injuries. She goes round and round around him checking for any kind of injury. Etienne reassured her that he was not hurt and that he was perfectly fine. Etienne then told her that he had brought back some gifts for her, and Yu got extremely excited. He showed her everything he had won and earned. Yu was surprised and exclaimed that it was a lot of money. She playfully suggested that with this money, they could finally arrange a marriage for Etienne. However, Etienne disagreed and told her that the money was meant for her. He encouraged her to use it for her tuition and daily living expenses. Yu was elated by this and mentioned that it meant they could now afford to eat meat every day from now on. Yu picked up the bottle containing the precious liquid, gave it a shake, and inquired about its properties. Etienne admitted that he didn't know much about it, so he consulted his illustrated book of treasures. Yu was instantly intrigued, expressing her interest in learning more about such items. She eagerly requested to see the book. After some research, Etienne discovered that the mysterious object was a terra core elixir. It seemed that the Viper had transformed into a monster using this elixir. Etienne was surprised by how valuable and powerful the item turned out to be, which he had collected so easily. Yu then handed the bottle to Etienne, suggesting that since the elixir could enhance talents, it would be beneficial for him. However, Etienne had different plans. He told Yu that he no longer needed it and instead wanted her to become stronger. This took Yu by surprise, and she looked at her big brother suspiciously, not expecting such a sudden request. Later that evening, Etienne continued to pester Yu, urging her to drink the precious liquid. However, Yu was reluctant and kept coming up with excuses to avoid it. One of her concerns was that she hadn't even awakened her talent yet, and she worried that drinking the elixir might be a waste. The status window appeared, and Etienne noticed that his sister's cultivation talent was only at the inferior level. He believed that if she consumed the geocentric fluid, it would definitely improve her talent. However, he wasn't sure by how much it would increase. Yu then proposed a rather wild idea, selling the liquid. She suggested that they could exchange this incredible item for a substantial amount of money. Etienne, however, informed her that the book mentioned the place that produced the liquid also had an Earth spiritual energy stone, which he had already destroyed. So, when potential buyers wanted to purchase the stone, they would likely be skeptical and consider it a scam. This, in turn, would attract danger and trouble in the end. Yu cast a disapproving glance at the bottle and expressed her disappointment that her brother had destroyed the source of such a valuable item. Etienne, undeterred, finally took the bottle and insisted that it would be an even greater waste if she didn't drink it. With a determined look, he held her cheeks and, against her will, opened her mouth. In response, Yu cried out for help, playfully accusing her brother of trying to murder his own little sister. Despite her initial resistance, Etienne successfully made Yu drink the liquid. He inquired about the taste, and Yu, after a fit of coughing, described it as warm and refreshing. Etienne was puzzled as the status window still showed Yu's cultivation talent as inferior. He began to wonder if what the book said might be fake. However, Yu suddenly mentioned that she was feeling sleepy and assured her brother that she would prepare food for him later. Etienne, still feeling puzzled about the situation, tells Yu to rest and assures her that everything will be fine. He decides to wait and observe, thinking that perhaps the effect of the geocentric fluid had not yet been activated. An hour later, while sitting next to Yu, Etienne suddenly senses a surge of energy as her talent awakens. He turns to look at her, and the status window confirms that her cultivation talent has now advanced to a medium level. He's filled with pride for his little sister, knowing that with her rare freeze talent and medium cultivation talent, she's destined to become a top-notch martial artist in the future. With Yu's progress, Etienne becomes more determined. He grabs one of the bottles containing the monster's blood and contemplates his upcoming challenge against Mo Xiaobai. Etienne knows he's ready and confident that he won't lose to Mo Xiaobai. To prepare for the fight, he quickly gulps down the blood, even though the taste is unpleasant. Etienne is well prepared, with a stash of peanuts to help wash away the taste. Etienne wanted to eat this in the cave, and he was happy that he could finally eat it. While munching on the nuts, Etienne ponders the potential time boost that the medium-ranked violent beast's blood might offer. Curious and eager to test its effects, he decides to use it to enhance his body. After some time, he realizes that his cultivation has increased by 8 times. The supportive effects of this medium-ranked violent beast's blood are astounding, and if he had enough of it, he might even break through to the next stage of martial arts. Etienne regrets that he's left with only 2 bottles of the precious blood now, and he wonders what would be the best way to use them. 10 days later, Etienne is seen in the small forest of the 5th school, deeply immersed in his cultivation. Suddenly, Zhang Bao rushes toward him, huffing and puffing, full of urgency, and asks for his advice. Etienne calmly inquires about the problem. Zhang Bao finally catches his breath and mentions Mo Xiaobai's name. This instantly grabs Etienne's attention, and he stands up, concerned that Mo Xiaobai might have arrived. Zhang Bao clarifies that Mo Xiaobai is actually isolating himself in his room with the goal of breaking through to the martial artist stage. Zhang Bao expresses his suspicion that Mo Xiaobai might be plotting something against Etienne, intending to become a martial artist before him so that he can challenge Etienne. Etienne, however, feels that Zhang Bao might be overreacting and returns to his seat. Zhang Bao is puzzled by Etienne's calm reaction and insists that it's a serious matter. Etienne then explains that Moshebe is merely isolating himself, and given their medium cultivation talents, it would take Moshebe at least a month to break through to the martial artist stage. Zhang Bao couldn't contain his anxiety and emphasized to Etienne that if Moshebe were to become a martial artist, he would easily overpower Etienne. Etienne, however, assured Zhang Bao that he wasn't afraid of Moshebe. Moshebe was busy cultivating and so was Etienne. Zhang Bao continued to express his concerns, mentioning Moshebe's noble background and abundant resources, contrasting it with Etienne's situation. Etienne had already used up all 3 bottles of medium-rank violent beast's blood. Zhang Bao seemed to believe that Etienne was in a dire situation and humorously suggested preparing for Etienne's funeral. He also offered to take care of EU. Etienne acknowledged that he had only the low-ranking violent beast spotted snake's blood and heart's blood left. He estimated that by using them, he would reach the advanced rank martial apprentice level. Though he would still be a step away from becoming a martial artist, Etienne believed that his acquired speed and sword talents gave him the strength to confront a martial artist. At the Mo family's estate, the bodyguard stood guard at the door, and suddenly the door began to crack and then burst open with a loud bang. A powerful figure emerged from the room. The bodyguard immediately dropped to his knees and congratulated his young master, Moshebe, on his achievement of becoming a martial artist. He expressed his relief that his young master had returned safely and had grown even stronger. At the Mo family estate, the bodyguard continued to shower his young master with praise for achieving the status of a martial artist. He joyfully chanted, "Long live young master." Moshebe eventually emerged from the room where he had been in isolation for a considerable time. He appeared significantly more robust, with a well-built physique and longer hair. Moshebe's father, Moen, arrived to see his son and expressed his happiness that Moshebe had finally come out. Moshebe respectfully greeted his father, and Moen commended him for reaching the rank of a martial artist, something he had expected from his son. Moen, a member of the Linhai base's prominent Mo family and one of the 10 elders of the clan, was an elite martial artist himself. He patted Moshebe on the shoulder and praised him for his achievement, expressing his pride in his son's success. Moshebe, in a show of respect, bowed deeply before Moen and expressed his gratitude to both his ancestor and his father for their guidance and support. Moen found this display of respect from his son very pleasing and encouraged him to rise with pride. After Moen's departure, he ordered one of the servants to check on the meal's preparation in the kitchen. However, he quickly stopped the servant and decided to go himself. Moen turned to his son, Moshebe, reminding him to enjoy the special meal that had been prepared in celebration of his achievements. Moshebe expressed his gratitude and awaited his father's departure. Once Moen had left the room, Moshebe turned to his bodyguard and inquired about the results of the investigation and other matters he had assigned before isolating himself. The bodyguard grinned and assured his young master that he had thoroughly investigated everything. He then delivered the news that Etienne had no parents or significant background, implying that they could easily manipulate and bully him as they pleased. Moshebe was pleased to hear this, considering Etienne as a worthless individual with no influential connections. With this newfound information, he ordered his bodyguard to locate someone who could eliminate Etienne, feeling confident that this task would be a straightforward one. The bodyguard was initially surprised when Moshebe expressed his intention to directly kill Etienne. He cautioned his young master, explaining that the base was not like the wild area, and casual killings could lead to trouble, even with the Mo family's influence and power. Moshebe, sipping on his drink, cleverly inquired who had asked the bodyguard to use the Mo family's name for such purposes. Moshebe then instructed the bodyguard to find a dark shadow assassin, well aware that when a dark shadow assassin was involved, investigations were nearly impossible. The bodyguard, still concerned, pointed out that hiring a dark shadow assassin would cost at least 1 million, and in his opinion, it wasn't worth it for someone as insignificant as Etienne. Moshebe took another sip of his drink and dismissed the bodyguard's concerns, condescendingly stating that servants like him often had a limited perspective filled with the mindset of poor people. He went on to explain that Linhai was such a vast base, with only a few families holding power, while the rest were essentially slaves. He asked the bodyguard if he understood why this was the case, but didn't wait for a response. Moshebe declared that it was because if a genius emerged from the lower classes, they would be eliminated immediately. Moshebe, with a wicked smile, crushed the cup in his hand, and his bodyguard immediately grasped the implication. It was clear that the fifth school couldn't nurture any geniuses, and Moshebe was making that point. Moshebe proudly proclaimed that in the world, the weak perished while the strong survived. And this was the unchanging rule of life. In the small forest of the 5th school, Etienne tirelessly honed his sword skills, cutting down trees and rocks without hesitation. His determination knew no bounds. However, as the sky darkened, he realized it was time to head home before the impending rain arrived. In the dimly lit streets on his way home, Etienne noticed something peculiar. He stopped in his tracks and waited for the status window to appear. It revealed the person's name as Lai Kun, possessing the power of the dark shadow. The bluish light expanded and lunged toward Etienne with a clear intent to take his life. Etienne acted swiftly, countering the dark shadow assassin, and they both managed to evade each other's attacks unscathed. Etienne confronted the danger and directly inquired about the stranger's identity, to which the response was chillingly simple, and the man said that he was someone who was here to kill Etienne. Etienne found himself in a precarious situation, facing the determined dark shadow assassin, Lai Kun, who was intent on taking his life. Although Etienne briefly considered whether Mosheabe might have hired this assassin, he knew that Mosheabe had already advanced to the rank of a martial warrior, making such tactics unnecessary. The assailant, Lai Kun, gave Etienne little time to dwell on these thoughts as he launched another attack. However, Etienne's reflexes were sharp, and he dodged the assault. Lai Kun made yet another attempt to strike, but once again, Etienne eluded his attack. Etienne then realized that Lai Kun possessed a shadow talent that allowed him to become invisible. In their third encounter, Lai Kun prepared to pounce on his target, but Etienne's quick movements left him frustrated. Etienne seized the opportunity, announcing it was his turn to strike. In the blink of an eye, Etienne closed the distance between them, coming face to face with his opponent, and launching a powerful attack at Lai Kun, who quickly vanished. However, Etienne's exceptional skills and perceptiveness made the dark shadow talent ineffective against him. With relentless determination, Etienne finally managed to pinpoint Lai Kun and deliver a devastating blow. Lai Kun found himself utterly defeated, unable to comprehend how Etienne had pierced through his formidable talent. He decided to halt his aggressive onslaught and questioned Etienne about the secret behind his ability to see through his shadow talent. Etienne, standing confidently before the dark shadow assassin, demanded to know who had sent Lai Kun on this mission. In response, Lai Kun, with a hint of defiance, brandished his sword and declared that he would reveal the identity of his employer only when Etienne was on the brink of death. Etienne was momentarily taken aback by this response, but he quickly realized that Lai Kun had activated the Shadow Blade technique. Reacting swiftly, Etienne evaded the impending attack and counterattacked with precision, thrusting his sword into Lai Kun's back. As blood spilled from Lai Kun's mouth and wounds, Etienne pressed for the truth, demanding to know who had sent him. Lai Kun, both injured and surprised by Etienne's skill and tactics, chuckled and acknowledged that Etienne was the most formidable martial apprentice he had ever encountered. Resigned, he disclosed that Mosheabe was the one who had hired him for the mission. Upon learning that it was Mosheabe who had sent the Dark Shadow assassin, Etienne didn't appear surprised. He stood beside the lifeless body of the assassin, deep in thought. As he touched the body, Etienne managed to successfully replicate the shadow talent, adding it to his growing repertoire. With newfound confidence and a sinister air, Etienne proudly declared that the Dark Shadow assassin's talent was now his. This time, it was Etienne who exuded an eerie presence, his collection of talents making him an even more formidable figure. The rain was pouring heavily as Etienne buried the Dark Shadow assassin's lifeless body in the forest. Suddenly, a single leaf caught his attention, and his mind wandered as he contemplated life. Etienne firmly believed that as a human, one should not be as fleeting as a falling leaf. He was determined to live as if he were the wind and rain, resolute in his path. As he held the leaf, Etienne crushed it in his hand, emphasizing that in this world, he would be the driving force, not the fallen leaf. After returning home, he took a refreshing shower, donned fresh clothes, and felt invigorated. Sitting on the sofa, he laid out Lai Kun's belongings on the table. Among them were two ancient swords from the Yuan dynasty. Etienne's sword had transformed into a reel, but these two remained undamaged. Etienne examined Lai Kun's collection of cards, knowing that a gold card was worth 100,000, making his total 3.5 million. With a mischievous grin, Etienne declared that the money Mosheabe had spent to buy his life was now going to be put to good use by Etienne himself. Etienne's attention was drawn to a book he discovered. Its title indicated it was about the Shadow Sword, a green copper ranked sword skill. This was a valuable find, as a proper sword skill could help him unleash the full potential of his sword talent, which was precisely what he needed most at the moment. Eager not to waste any time, Etienne decided to begin studying it right away. He opened the book to the first page. However, just as he was about to delve into it, a sudden lightning strike outside reminded him that his little sister, Yu hadn't returned home yet. Concern started to well up in Etienne as he pondered her absence. Fearing the worst due to Moshebe's attempts on his life and the possibility that Yu might be in danger too, Etienne hastily left the house and set out to find his younger sister. Activating his speed talent, he moved at his maximum speed, desperately hoping for Yu's safety. His only wish was for his beloved little sister to be unharmed and safe. Finally, Etienne arrived at the lower city area's normal middle school. The rain was coming down heavily, making visibility on the road quite poor. Undeterred, Etienne leaped onto the road and began his search for Yu. While it was a normal school, he couldn't underestimate Moshebe's willingness to break the boundaries of morality. As he scoured the area, he heard a whisper instructing him not to move. Fearlessly, Etienne confronted the person in the hoodie and told them he should be the one not to move. In a dramatic revelation, the person removed their hood, revealing herself to be none other than Yu. Etienne was both relieved and surprised to find his little sister. Etienne inquired why she had taken so long to come out, to which Yu explained she had been on duty, and that she was cleaning the classroom. She then opened an umbrella and asked why Etienne hadn't brought one for himself. Observing that he hadn't even worn his shoes, Yu scolded him for getting completely soaked. Etienne, consumed with worry for Yu, had even forgotten to wear his shoes. However, he couldn't bring himself to reveal his true reason to her. He was afraid that Yu might become anxious about his safety, so he told a little white lie, explaining to Yu that he had left the house in a hurry and forgot to put on his shoes. Yu didn't press the matter further and shifted her focus to the move that Etienne had performed earlier. She was curious about how he had done it and urged him to explain. With their conversation centered around this topic, the brother and sister walked home happily, bickering about the same. In the darkness, a frustrated and angry figure was lurking. It was none other than Moshebe. His thoughts were fixated on Etienne, and he couldn't comprehend why that scoundrel was still alive. While walking home in the cold rain, the brother-sister duo decided to enjoy some hot sausages. They stopped at a nearby shop and were offered delicious BBQ sausages, which they gladly accepted. Both Etienne and Yu relished the tasty sausages. Yu, with plans to cook dinner that night, asked Etienne what he would like to have. He happily requested her signature boiled meat slices. As they continued their journey, Etienne grew increasingly vigilant, frequently glancing back, sensing that something might be amiss. His suspicions were confirmed when he noticed they were being followed. A luxurious black car was tailing them closely. Etienne and Yu finally reached home, and Yu got busy preparing dinner. When everything was ready, she called out to Etienne, who was still preoccupied with watching the black car. She asked him to come and help set the table. Etienne, while keeping an eye on the car, reassured Yu that he would be there to assist her shortly. In the morning, Yu was peacefully studying at school, participating in class, and answering questions when called upon by her professor. She was unaware of the situation outside the classroom. Her vigilant brother, Etienne, had followed her to school to ensure her safety. From the terrace, he had a clear view of the same black car that had been following Yu. It had been 3 days in a row. Etienne was becoming increasingly frustrated, as it was evident that these individuals had crossed the line by targeting his little sister. Suddenly, he noticed that the stalker was leaving. Well, now it was Etienne's turn to follow, so he quickly rushed to trail the car. Without a moment's hesitation, Etienne leaped from the terrace and quickly followed the black car. After some time, the black car came to a stop at the entrance of a building. The man who had been stalking Yu got out of the car, and Etienne continued to observe him closely. Etienne couldn't help but wonder if this was the location he was looking for, and the name that kept coming to his mind was Moshebe. Inside the building, a group of people had gathered, forming what appeared to be a gang. They were in the midst of attacking a man who eventually collapsed on the ground, severely beaten. 2 burly individuals in suits stood by his side, and the injured man pleaded with young Master Moshebe, admitting that he had no money to offer. He cried and begged for mercy, vowing to repay Moshebe as soon as he could gather the funds. Moshebe, however, appeared furious and informed the man that if he didn't pay today, the debt would double by tomorrow, as borrowing money from Moshebe was no simple matter. Moshebe smirks and asks the man his opinion on this matter. Moshebe's gaze remained fixed on the man who had borrowed money from him, while the desperate borrower continued to negotiate with him. The man refused to give up easily and argued that Moshebe's interest rates were unreasonably high, and he simply couldn't pay the full amount today. He explained that he had elderly parents and young children depending on him, pleading with Moshebe to show some mercy. However, Moshebe remained cold and resolute in his decision. At that moment, the stalker who had been following Yu informed his young master that he had returned. Moshebe quickly shifted his attention and asked if there was any news from the shadow assassin. The stalker relayed that he had been unable to reach the shadow assassin, Lai Kun. He assured Moshebe that he would try to make contact with Lai Kun through another means. As Etienne observed the scene from a hidden vantage point, he realized that the assassin, Lai Kun, had indeed been sent by Moshebe. The truth infuriated him, and he could no longer tolerate Moshebe's actions. Moshebe stood up and approached the helpless man who lay in pain on the ground. With a cruel taunt, he questioned whether some people believed that the money belonging to descendants of wealthy families like himself was easy to scam. Then, without hesitation, Moshebe started to brutally kick and stomp on the man, treating him as if he were nothing more than a mere stone. The savage assault resulted in blood splattering around the area. Etienne could hardly contain his anger and frustration at witnessing this cruel display of power and brutality by Moshebe. Moshebe's stalker, who also served as his bodyguard, was visibly scared by Moshebe's earlier words. He quickly reassured his young master that he had never even thought of trying to scam him and that his only desire was to faithfully serve Moshebe. He attempted to cover up for his previous statement, emphasizing his loyalty. One of the guards checked on the man who had been brutally beaten, only to find that he had died as a result of the savage assault. Moshebe ordered the disposal of the dead body without much concern. Moshebe then turned his attention back to his bodyguard and asked about Etienne's little sister, Yu. He inquired whether the bodyguard had made arrangements for her yet. The bodyguard explained that he had initially planned to entrust the task of dealing with Yu to a friend who had recently been released from jail. However, he now considered that leaving such important matters to others might be a mistake, and he declared that he would personally take care of this situation. The bodyguard, with determination in his voice, reassured his young master that Moshebe need not worry about Yu anymore. Moshebe, with a sinister smile, acknowledged his bodyguard's words, but in the very next instant, he launched a brutal attack on his loyal subordinate. Moshebe delivered a powerful punch to the bodyguard's stomach, causing him to collapse to the ground in pain, blood seeping from his wounds. The bodyguard, writhing in agony, bowed before his master, mustering the courage to question why he had been attacked. Moshebe coldly explained that this was the punishment for failing to fulfill his duties correctly. At this moment, Etienne had had enough. He unsheathed his primordial weapon, charged forward, and leaped towards Moshebe. Although Moshebe had a sense that something was amiss, it was too late to react. Without hesitation, Etienne launched a furious attack on Moshebe. In a matter of seconds, Etienne's ferocious assault resulted in Moshebe's demise. The guards were initially bewildered by the sudden turn of events, but as soon as they laid eyes on their lifeless young master, panic set in. Fearfully, they announced that someone had killed their young master. The bodyguard, however, recognized the signs of the concealed body's dark shadow talent and believed that the assailant was none other than Lai Kun. Etienne then ominously revealed himself and began advancing towards the bodyguard with lethal intent. The bodyguard was taken aback as he immediately recognized Etienne, his shock palpable. He couldn't believe his eyes. He questioned Etienne about how he had acquired the dark shadow talent. He had thoroughly investigated Etienne and knew him as a weak, talentless individual. The bodyguard was bewildered as to how Etienne could have eliminated his young master, Moshebe, with a single strike. Recalling past events, the bodyguard pressed Etienne for information about Lai Kun's whereabouts, labeling him a scoundrel and demanding answers. Etienne, fed up with the bodyguard's cruelty, flexed his muscles and launched an unannounced attack. He thrust his sword into the hefty bodyguard, who cried out, insisting that Etienne couldn't kill him. Another powerful blow sealed the bodyguard's fate, and he fell lifeless to the ground. Etienne, after dealing with his adversaries, wiped his weapon clean and produced a sign that radiated the essence of darkness. He harnessed his magic to absorb his weapon, concealing it once again. With his hoodie back in place, Etienne was resolute in his belief that he wouldn't be an easy target for anyone looking to harm him. Moshebe and his fellow men should have thought twice before targeting him. Etienne then left the building, departing from the scene. An hour later, 3 more cars pulled up near the same building, indicating that news of the incident had spread. A man, seething with anger, clenched his fists and demanded to know who was responsible. Moen, visibly furious, demanded to know who had killed his son. One of the guards addressed Moen as the 10th elder and presented him with a piece of evidence they had found at the scene. The guards speculated that the killer might be a dark shadow assassin. Moen examined the evidence, pondering who would hire such a ruthless killer. Just then, Mo Elder, the venerable ancestor of the Mo family, arrived at the scene. The guards paid their respects to him. Mo King was the one and only veteran martial artist of the noble Mo family in the Linhai base. Moen was taken aback by the presence of his ancestor and fell to his knees, bowing before him. He informed his ancestor of his son's death, tears streaming down his face, and lamented the loss of the Mo family's genius. Mo King, the veteran martial artist, urged Moen to rise and speak. Moen began to explain that Mo Xiaobei had recently broken through to become a martial artist and had been their family's hope for revitalization. But before he could finish his sentence, Moen broke down in tears. Mo King concurred that Mo Xiaobei was indeed the hope of the Mo family's younger generation. Having a second veteran martial artist would greatly elevate their family's standing in the Linhai base. Moen, still sobbing, implored his ancestor to help Mo Xiaobei seek revenge. He passed the evidence to his ancestor, and Mo King immediately recognized the work of a dark shadow assassin. He realized that the few families with grievances against them must have hired the dark shadow assassin. As he examined the evidence, he noticed the essence of the steel fang with the word dark etched into it. The steel fang base was the new talk of the town these days. Zhang Bao seemed to be engrossed in the latest rumors about the steel fang base, and he enthusiastically showered Yi Tian with all the gossip. According to him, the Steel Fang base was rumored to be much more powerful than the Linhai base. He added to the intrigue by mentioning that the Mo family's ancestors suspected that a family within the Linhai base was secretly collaborating with the Steel Fang base, eliminating strong and talented individuals from the Linhai base, with the ultimate goal of taking over the entire base. Zhang Bao couldn't help but indulge in the hot topic, offering Etienne a plethora of juicy tidbits. He mentioned hearing that Mo Xiaobei had recently achieved the rank of martial artist and was promptly assassinated by them. He had his own share of gossip to contribute, suggesting that Mo Xiaobei's head had been severed from his body. Etienne felt a sense of relief as it appeared that he was not under suspicion for Mo Xiaobei's death. Zhang Bao continued by mentioning that Mo Xiaobei had managed to achieve the rank of martial artist, and Etienne was undoubtedly his primary target for a showdown. However, with Mo Xiaobei's demise at the hands of someone else, Etienne seemed to be in the clear. Zhang Bao believed that luck was on Etienne's side. As Etienne listened, he couldn't help but contemplate the turn of events. He had intended to use Lai Kun's dark word square scarf as a false piece of evidence to divert the Mo family's attention. But Mo King, the Mo family's ancestor, had discovered the Steel Fang base's mark on it. Etienne was left wondering whether the old man, Mo King, was simply making things up or if he had indeed uncovered something significant, or this old man was just playing around intentionally bringing up a conflict between the bases. Next day, early in the morning at 4, Etienne quietly goes about his morning routine, preparing for the day. He gets dressed, collects his bag, and tiptoes towards the door, hoping not to wake his little sister. However, just as he's about to leave, EU calls out to him. She approaches him, still half asleep, and Etienne is surprised that despite his efforts to be quiet, he has woken her up. Cutting to the point, EU asks her brother where he's going so early. Etienne explained that he plans to go to the wild area alone to continue his cultivation as he needs to become stronger quickly. EU wasn't entirely happy with this decision and argues that he's just returned home a few days ago, and is already leaving again, and that too alone. She suggests he cancel his plans or find some friends to accompany him. Etienne understands that his little sister is simply concerned for his safety, so he reassures her that he'll be fine and asks her to wait for him at home. Etienne starts walking after his brief conversation with EU, but she doesn't want to let him go so easily. She runs up to him and embraces him from behind, holding him tightly. This emotional moment tugs at Etienne's heart, and EU pleads with him to come back home safely. He agrees and continues on his journey, knowing that he has his little sister's support and love. Etienne has arrived in the wild area, a place known for its dangerous and powerful beasts. While rumors suggest that there are high-ranking violet beasts in this area, Etienne is well aware that his current combat abilities limit him to hunting the low-ranking violet beasts on the outskirts. He must be cautious not to attract the attention of the higher-ranking violet beasts. Etienne is determined to break through to become a martial artist this time, and he feels confident in his abilities. However, his plans are disrupted when the ground begins to shake beneath him, and he quickly realizes that it's not an earthquake but a violent beast approaching. A damned violent beast. Etienne decides to assess the abilities of the approaching violent beast and consults the status window that appears. The beast is an iron armor cow with a novice rank defense talent. As the beast approaches him, Etienne wonders if it has detected his presence, and indeed, it has. The iron armor cow is now charging at him with aggression, and Etienne prepares for the battle by setting aside his bag and activating his weapons. The intense battle commences, and Etienne is quick to engage the beast. However, he soon realizes that the iron armor cow's defense is remarkably strong, and he admires the beast for its talent. Etienne is determined to acquire this special defense talent for himself. The battle, which had just commenced, was already escalating in intensity as Etienne had his sights set on acquiring the defense talent. With all the strength he could muster, Etienne charged at the beast. Regardless of the creature, the weakest point was often the same: the eyes. Etienne leaped towards the monster's head, aiming for its eyes. However, the iron armor cow had an exceptional defense power, with a protective layer that thwarted Etienne's attacks. He quickly realized that he couldn't break through this protective barrier. Despite being just a novice rank defense talent, it was remarkably robust. Etienne wasn't one to give up easily. Despite the odds stacked against him, he continued his relentless efforts to breach the defensive layer. However, luck didn't seem to be on his side this day. It was a real pity. What's more, Etienne still had 16 days left in the countdown for his talent copy cooldown. The iron armor cow, though challenging, should be weaker than the silver moon wolf but stronger than the violent scaled snake. Etienne's sacred weapon had also been broken in the process. Given the beast's large size, Etienne knew he needed to find its weak point and launch a sneak attack to have any chance of victory. Gathering a surge of confidence, Etienne activated his dark shadow talent and boldly launched an assault on the iron armor cow. Fearlessly, he thrust his weapon into the layers of protection, inflicting injuries on the beast. Etienne was amazed by the effectiveness of the dark shadow talent, which allowed him to attack without the beast realizing it. Even the formidable sword talent had proven ineffective against the beast's defense. Etienne was determined to discover the creature's weak point, but the defense protective layer seemed impenetrable. However, in a moment of revelation, he noticed something peculiar. There, near the beast's rear end, the defense protection appeared weaker. Etienne couldn't help but wonder if the beast's weak point might be located there, near its ass. The only way to confirm this was to try it out. With the assistance of the dark shadow sword, Etienne thrust his weapon into the iron armor cow's ass, launching a shadow assault that caused the beast to cry out in pain, unable to withstand the brutal attack. Etienne's intuition had proven correct. With the iron armor cow now deceased, he was able to cut through the protective layer with ease. He knew that the blade could pierce through it only after the creature's death. Without hesitation, Etienne collected several bottles of the beast's valuable blood, recognizing its worth. He reflected on the fact that no matter how powerful one's talent might be, it was rendered meaningless when that individual was no longer among the living. Now, it was time to harvest all the valuable components of the beast. Etienne believed that the ox skin would fetch a good price, and the eyes and testicles were also significant. However, the most precious item was likely the pair of horns. Etienne skillfully removed everything he needed, carefully storing them within his backpack. The backpack had become considerably heavy due to these valuable spoils. Etienne carries the load and walks as he decides to find a quiet place to begin cultivating. Later that evening, Etienne found shelter in an abandoned cave and prepared to commence his cultivation. He had everything he needed at hand, including fresh monster blood and some peanuts from the sister brand, a delightful combination. He expressed his reliance on these companions for his breakthrough to the martial warrior realm. Etienne gulped down the blood and savored the tasty peanuts. The effect of the fresh beast blood was astounding. 20 days later, Etienne had undergone a remarkable transformation. He exuded a new aura, more potent and robust. He let out a howl, displaying the elegance of his enhanced power. The following day, 2 girls were spotted lurking near the location where Etienne had been cultivating. The assistant guided her lady boss and mentioned that someone was breaking through to the martial warrior realm in such a desolate place, which struck her as peculiar. The lady boss, on the other hand, found it extremely intriguing. Etienne felt the immense flow of power as he entered the martial warrior realm. Amid this transformation, he remembered the iron armor cow. 20 days had passed, and he believed the cooldown period for talent copying should be over. With determination, Etienne set out to revisit the iron armor cow, his goal to copy its defense talent. After a while, he arrived at the location where he had defeated the iron armor cow. Etienne began touching the beast's remains to initiate the talent copying process. Suddenly, the status window appeared, indicating that the copying could not proceed because the target was not intact. Etienne had never known about this limitation. He sighed and immediately regretted his decision. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have dissected the iron armor cow into so many pieces. The 2 girls were still observing the situation from afar. The assistant girl inquired if Etienne could be the one who had killed the beast. The boss lady, however, disagreed, explaining that Etienne had only recently broken through to the martial warrior realm, while the monster had been dead for a long time. This reasoning made sense to the assistant girl. There was no way Etienne could have killed the monster when he was still a martial apprentice. Well, both girls were quite impressed by Etienne's boldness as a mere martial apprentice who dared to scavenge this mountain. According to them, Etienne displayed remarkable courage. As Etienne continued his journey, he finally stumbled upon a water body. Realizing it had been more than 20 days in the mountains, he decided to take a much-needed bath before returning home. Etienne undressed completely, leaving only his underwear. The girls were still observing him from a safe distance, but they became too embarrassed to continue watching. The assistant girl informed her boss that the boy they had been following and observing was about to do something indecent. The boss lady told her to be quiet, and they quickly decided to leave. Meanwhile, Etienne took a refreshing dive into the water to clean himself up. Etienne arrived at the martial marketplace set up in the Linhai base, which was bustling with activity. He landed near the largest shop in the marketplace, the martial pavilion, and decided to check it out first. As he walked through the marketplace, two girls passed by Etienne, and he was shocked to see one of them. It was the same girls who had been observing him in the wild area. The assistant girl immediately recognized Etienne and informed her boss lady that he was the same guy from the mountains. However, Etienne had not yet noticed them, but he was taken aback by the boss lady's resemblance to his little sister, Yu, and he wondered as if Yu was here right in front of him. When Etienne saw the girl who resembled Yu, he got completely confused and mistakenly took her for his little sister. Both the girls came to a halt as they heard him, and the girl gave him a strange look, wondering if he was really calling her his little sister. Etienne quickly realized his mistake and corrected himself, acknowledging that the girl wasn't Yu. He knew there was no way Yu would be here. However, he decided to check out the girl using his status window. It revealed that the girl, whose name was Yuling, possessed exceptional skills, particularly in her sword and speed talents. She was undoubtedly a talented individual. Here, the assistant girl overreacted and scolded Etienne, demanding to know who he was calling his little sister. She accused him of picking up junk and questioned his audacity to say such things. Etienne was once again puzzled, wondering what the girl meant by picking up junk. He even sniffed himself to check if there was a lingering smell on him but found everything to be fine. Yu Ling scolds her assistant, Xiao Yu, and tells her not to spout nonsense. Xiao Yu immediately apologizes and explains that it almost slipped from her mouth. Yu Ling then whispers something in Xiao Yu's ear and instructs her to convey some important information to Etienne. Xiao Yu agrees to rectify her mistake and goes back to Etienne, bowing to him and offering a sincere apology. She addresses him as a martial artist lord and apologizes for any offense. She adds up saying that her mistress has already taught her a lesson, and she begs for his forgiveness. Etienne was getting increasingly frustrated with these girls. Xiao Yu then informs Etienne that Yu Ling has some business to attend to and has gone ahead. She grabs Etienne's arm and asks if he came to the martial pavilion to sell materials. Xiao Yu assures him that since Yu Ling is the supervisor of the martial pavilion, he doesn't need to worry about anything. Xiao Yu quickly offers Etienne a generous deal to make up for her earlier comments. She promises that, regardless of what Etienne sells, they will pay him double the price. Etienne is taken aback by this incredible offer. Xiao Yu rushes ahead to warmly welcome him, and Etienne, not wanting to miss out on such an opportunity, readily accepts the deal. He steps into the store and surveys the array of impressive items they have. This was as expected of Martial Market's largest store. Xiao Yu enters the room and sets a teacup on the table. She addresses Etienne as martial artist lord and politely offers him a cup of tea. Etienne expresses his gratitude and proceeds to lay out the items he has collected on the table. Among the items are the steel armor, the cow's horns and skin, and a few other pieces. Xiao Yu meticulously counts and calculates the total, which adds up to $200,000. Since they agreed to double the price, Etienne is now looking at a grand total of $400,000. A legit count of $400,000. Yes, it was a great deal. He's elated at the thought of earning such a substantial amount of money so easily. Xiao Yu presents Etienne with 4 white cards, each containing $100,000, and advises him to keep them safely. Etienne expresses his gratitude once more, and his mind immediately goes to his little sister. He envisions how happy Yu would be when she sees the substantial amount of money. Xiao Yu also mentions that her boss, Yu Ling, is intent on making amends to him. Etienne is offered a fantastic deal by Xiao Yu. She informs him that all the items in their shop can be bought with a 50% discount. Etienne happily accepts the offer and begins to browse through the items. As he examines the prices, he realizes that many cultivation resources are incredibly expensive, making it difficult for ordinary citizens to afford them. He decides to purchase one book on the Yuan energy forging body technique, one Ferocious Beast Atlas book, 3 bottles of medium-rank Ferocious Beast's blood, and 3 bottles of King Yuan's solution. After selecting these items, Etienne tells Xiao Yu that he'll proceed with the purchase. Xiao Yu gathers the chosen items, calculates the total, and then reveals that it amounts to $785,000. However, she generously rounds it down to $700,000. Etienne pays with a gold card containing $1 million, a fortunate acquisition from the Dark Shadow Assassin. Xiao Yu returns the remaining change to him and advises him to keep it safe. Etienne is content with the benefits he's received from the Martial Pavilion, but he can't help but wonder why they are favoring him so much, considering his modest background. It's clear to him that this generosity isn't just due to an accusation of picking up junk. As Etienne walks slowly toward the exit, lost in thought about the day's events, he assumes their interaction is coming to an end. However, just when he is about to leave, Xiao Yu calls out to him, addressing him as Martial Artist Lord, and pleads with him to wait. Well, as expected, it wasn't going to be so simple. In the bustling marketplace, each shop had its own way of treating customers. Similarly, the Martial Pavilion had different floors catering to different types of customers. The girls lead Etienne to the second floor and offer him a seat, indicating that those who could access the Martial Hall's second floor were VIP guests. Yu Ling serves fresh tea to Etienne. He can't help but wonder how he, a commoner with no connections to nobles or big families, has become a VIP guest at this place. Yu Ling's demeanor strikes Etienne as cold and distant. He couldn't help but compare her to his lively and always cheerful little sister, Yu. Xiao Yu offers Etienne tea, and meanwhile, Yu Ling gets straight to the point. She informs him that the purpose of inviting him to tea is to personally invite him to join their martial hall. Yu Ling places their martial hall seal in front of him. While Yu Ling maintains a cold and distant demeanor, Etienne can't help but imagine his cheerful little sister, Yu, making this request. Oh my god. Etienne was in a dilemma. Yu Ling was using this face to request him that Etienne has never ever rejected before. He literally feels torn by the situation. Etienne sets down his teacup and expresses his confusion. He questions why Mohai Base, a large and powerful base, would choose him when they have no shortage of talented individuals. He emphasizes that he is just a novice rank martial artist with nothing particularly special about him. Yu Ling stands up, stretches, and explains that large bases like Mohai Base don't become great just because they lack talented individuals. They need talented individuals to maintain and grow their power. Etienne finds her reasoning reasonable, and he realizes that it's as expected of someone who comes from a big base. He also can't help but think about how his little stupid sister, Yu, would never express such mature and calculated thoughts. Etienne sat with his arms crossed, deeply contemplating the situation. Xiao Yu leaned in, questioning why he was hesitating when this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. She started to boast about the martial hall, emphasizing that even elites from big families strive to climb the ranks in Mohai Base, but Yu Ling has no interest in them. Etienne couldn't deny that it was a tremendous opportunity, but he was well aware that joining any organization would come with its restrictions. Moreover, he feared that if his special ability were discovered, it could lead to his demise. Therefore, he decided to stay independent until he could resolve this issue. Yu Ling, sitting on the table, demanded to know why he was hesitating. She inquired about the reasons behind his reluctance. However, Etienne found it challenging to concentrate on their conversation, especially when facing Yu Ling's persistent appeal. Moreover, it was really hard to reject this face. She stood before him and asked him to explain the problem. Etienne admitted that he wasn't entirely sure about his hesitation. He began to explain his concerns, citing the invasion rumors related to the Steel Fang base as an example. He described how the big families reacted, descending into chaos and infighting over such matters. Etienne had finally found some peace in his life and didn't want to become embroiled in the conflicts or serve such people. Yu Ling sighed and pointed out that in his eyes, she might appear similar to those people. Etienne felt embarrassed and reassured her that he saw her as different. In response, Yu Ling offered him another option. She suggested that he could observe her for the time being and didn't need to give her an immediate reply. Yu Ling was patient, after all. For a brief moment, they locked eyes and had a crazy eye contact, as if they had already struck an unspoken deal. After a while, Yi-Tian walked away. In a world often marked by chaos, martial artists stand as beacons of order and resilience. They not only learn how to defend themselves but also strive for a deeper understanding of the art, often finding a connection between the physical and the metaphysical. Yi-Tian demanded to know the true meaning of a martial artist. He wanted to know more about talent, the unique thread that weaves stories of greatness. Today, Yi-Tian found himself pondering the nature of martial artists when they first acquire their talents. He questioned whether they still remembered their duty or if they became blinded by the power bestowed upon them. Yi-Tian emotionally expressed his belief that the duty of a martial artist should be to protect the safety of the citizens. Reflecting on an incident from the past, he recalled a scenario where children, innocently playing with a ball, asked a guard near the gates to pass it back to them. However, the guard, displaying his strength in a misguided manner, stomped on the ball, destroying it. This act disappointed both the children and Yi-Tian. He couldn't fathom why, aside from facing ferocious beasts, people should suffer from the pressure and bullying of martial artists. Though there was no clear answer, Yi-Tian realized that he needed to rise to a higher position. He needed to become even stronger. Just then, the status window popped up, asking him if he wished to combine the successfully copied intermediate rank talent. To reach a higher place, Yi-Tian knew he had to choose yes. Thus, he decided to fuse the combination. The following morning, the door swung open, and Yi-Tian stepped into the house, calling out to Yi-Yu. Startled by her big brother's unexpected return, Yi-Yu, who was busy cleaning, rushed towards him with joy. She embraced him tightly, expressing her happiness at his return. Yi-Yu then examined her big brother, noting that it had only been 20 days since they last saw each other, yet Yi-Tian appeared even more physically fit. Proudly, Yi-Tian revealed that he had become a martial artist. Initially shocked, Yi-Yu soon grasped the significance and rejoiced, knowing that the Yi family now had a martial artist among them. Yi-Yu jumped in happiness, declaring that their ancestors would be extremely happy, and this was some incredible news. Yi-Yu, still reveling in the pride of having a martial artist in the family, remains blissfully unaware of her brother's thoughts. Yi-Tian, silently labeling her as an idiot, anticipates the day she awakens her special talent and joins him as a martial artist. Glancing at the status window, he promises to help her upgrade her talent if he encounters a treasure in the future. Yi-Yu then gets a pair of scissors and calls out to her martial artist big brother, indicating him to come here. She tells him that his little sister will help him cut his hair. Yi-Tian seemed to be a bit surprised. Expressing concern about his appearance, she playfully scolds him for looking like a beggar now that he's a martial artist. Advising him to take better care of himself, Yi-Yu proudly announces that she's about to start cutting his hair. Yi-Tian, complying with her request, suggests that his previous hairstyle was just fine. Yi-Yu reassures him, asserting that she knows best how to cut that style. As Yi-Yu cuts Yi-Tian's hair, he becomes nostalgic, reflecting on how time has swiftly passed. He recalls the days after their parents passed away when little Yi-Yu used to help him cut his hair. In those earlier times, Yi-Yu was hesitant even to hold a pair of scissors properly. Yi-Tian's memories drift to a particular incident when he was wounded, and Yi-Yu suggested going to the hospital. However, Yi-Tian, downplaying the injury, insisted on saving money and treating it at home. He assured Yi-Yu that he was fine despite being beaten up by others. Yi-Tian requested Yi-Yu to cut his hair short and cover the wound with a plaster. After completing the task, Yi-Yu dropped the scissors and expressed a wish that her big brother could possess the ability of Turritopsis nutricula. Intrigued, Yi-Tian inquired about the specific ability of Turritopsis nutricula, leading Yi-Yu to express mild frustration as he had apparently forgotten the childhood story associated with it. Yi-Yu then explains that Turritopsis nutricula possesses perfect recovery abilities, healing instantly after being injured. However, Yi-Tian dismisses these claims, stating that childhood stories are fictional and intended to deceive children. He advises Yi-Yu to stop believing in such tales. Yi-Yu, however, insists that the stories are real and accuses Yi-Tian of not knowing anything. Despite her conviction, Yi-Tian doesn't argue and instead affectionately taps her head, acknowledging her concern. Yi-Tian reassures Yi-Yu that he understands her worry and playfully suggests that, after awakening his talent, he might indeed develop a recovery ability. He promises that when that happens, he will never get injured and will be able to protect Yi-Yu even better. Yi-Tian, suddenly recalling the Turritopsis nutricula ability, becomes excited and moves around. However, Yi-Yu scolds him, worrying that his hair will get messy. Undeterred, Yi-Tian rushes to his bookshelf, grabs a previous treasure book he purchased, and quickly skims through it to find information on Turritopsis nutricula. After locating the details, he reads out loud that it is a water-ferocious monster with excellent recovery talent located at the Death Sea. Yu, curious about her brother's actions, asks him why he's talking to himself and expresses her unease with what she heard. Etienne remains silent, preoccupied with the idea that if he could copy and obtain the recovery talent, he wouldn't fear injuries anymore. This realization would also alleviate Yu's worries about him. When Yu doesn't receive a response, she looks into the book and recognizes the term Turritopsis nutricula. She insists that this was all part of their childhood stories, which she believes were fake and full of lies, designed to trick little kids. Yu crosses her arms, expressing her disagreement with her brother's excitement. Etienne closes the book firmly, asserting that the childhood stories are indeed real. An irritated Yu scolds him, insisting that he should return and finish getting his haircut. Later, Etienne is seen pacing in his room, reading a book, now with neatly cut hair. As he explores information about martial artists who exclusively cultivate forging techniques, he ponders the strength of these individuals. Continuing his reading, Etienne delves into the novice, medium, and later periods of a martial artist's development. Intrigued, he decides to experiment with cultivation. Sitting down, he contemplates the speed of the new method compared to the previous one. To test its effectiveness, he adds medium-rank ferocious beast's blood to the mix. Etienne gulps down the blood and then the effect begins. There was a straight 3 times boost and this was great. So, Etienne decides to focus on cultivating at home for now, and once the cooldown ends, he would head to the Death Sea. The copy talent cooldown duration was now for 30 days, and after this Etienne was certain to search for the Turritopsis nutricula monster and copy the recovery talent. With this plan in mind, Etienne decides to revisit the martial pavilion. Without wasting time, he enters the shop, where Yu warmly welcomes him. Initially confused, she soon recognizes Etienne as the guy known for looting things. Yu expresses her excitement and addresses him as the martial artist lord. Approaching Etienne, Yu assumes he must be seeking their boss lady, Yu Ling. However, Etienne clarifies that, this time, he has come to make a purchase. Yu takes a closer look at him and remarks on the transformative effect of good clothes, noting that Etienne now looks quite handsome. Understanding his intent to buy items, she guides him toward their selection. Etienne then inquires about the availability of the Death Sea's map. Yu confirms its presence and asks Etienne to wait briefly as she goes to retrieve it for him. Within a couple of minutes, Yu presents the map of the Death Sea in front of Etienne. Yup, this was it. Etienne was glad, and now he could definitely copy a good talent from here. Etienne inquires about the price of the Death Sea map, and Yu informs him that it costs 10,000. Agreeing to the deal, Etienne provides Yu with a card for payment. Once the transaction is completed, he departs from the martial pavilion. Watching him leave, Yu wonders if he is heading to a new place to loot more items. She recalls Yu Ling's warnings about the dangers of the Death Sea, with its terrifying ferocious creatures. Yu silently hopes that Etienne will stay safe amid the perils of this treacherous journey. Etienne, fully prepared, sets off on his journey to the Death Sea. After traveling for a considerable time, he finally reaches the vicinity of the Death Sea. His initial impression is that the place is eerie, and he speculates that there must be valuable talents for him to copy in such a desolate location. As he explores the area, it becomes apparent that the place has been abandoned for a considerable duration. The atmosphere is peculiar, exuding a sense of impending danger at any moment. And the moment Etienne thought about danger, the devil was here. As Etienne contemplates the potential danger, the Death Sea begins to churn and stir, indicating the presence of a ferocious beast. Quick to react, Etienne decides to conceal himself and carefully observe the unfolding situation. Leveraging his dark shadow talent, he hides behind a hill, pondering the nature of the imminent threat. In the midst of the chaos, 2 individuals emerge, engaged in a fierce struggle against the beast. An elderly man communicates to his companion, urging her to escape while they have the chance. However, the determined girl insists on leaving together, adamantly refusing to depart alone. To Etienne's surprise, he recognizes the girl as Yu Ling. Both individuals desperately fight to evade the clutches of the ferocious beast. But the old man realizes that their escape is now a challenging endeavor. The beast continues its relentless assault, causing both the old man and Yu Ling to tumble onto the land. As Etienne witnesses the creature, he discerns that it is a top-tier rank ferocious beast, instilling a sense of fear in him. The fierce confrontation unfolds between the formidable top-tier ferocious beast and the valiant duo of the old man and Yu Ling. The beast shifts its focus toward Yu Ling, who clutches a treasure chest tightly as she sprints to evade the creature's pursuit. The old man yelled loudly and warned Yu Ling to better watch out. In a surprising twist, Yu Ling, instead of fleeing, decides to confront the beast head-on. With a resolute stance, Yu Ling unleashes her secret art talent, summoning a weapon that she deftly wields against the ferocious beast. There's a palpable surge of power within Yu Ling, intensifying her capabilities. Fearlessly, she launches a relentless assault on the top-tier ferocious beast, causing it to roar in agony. There's a sudden electrifying change within Yu Ling, and it seems as though she became even more powerful. Yu Ling fearlessly and brutally attacks the ferocious beast with all her strength. Yi Tian, observing the unfolding spectacle, marvels at the prowess displayed by Yu Ling and contemplates the nature of her secret art. The intricacies of this technique leave him in awe. However, Yi Tian also recognizes the limitations of his own abilities. As a novice-rank martial artist, he acknowledges his inadequacy in contributing significantly to such a formidable battle. Yu Ling, undeterred by the relentless assault, continues her barrage of attacks on the ferocious beast, strategically targeting different parts of its formidable form. Yi Tian, witnessing her relentless onslaught, grasps the true extent of Yu Ling's power. The secret art she employed seems to have elevated her strength to that of a grandmaster artist, far surpassing Yi Tian's capabilities. It dawns on him that facing Yu Ling, even with a multitude of copies, would be an insurmountable challenge. Amidst the chaotic battle, the ferocious beast redirects its focus to the old man, launching a vicious attack on his leg. Despite the excruciating pain, the old man, whose one leg was almost in the grave, selflessly implores Yu Ling to flee for her life. He emphasizes the transient nature of the secret art that won't last very long and urges her to escape, emphasizing the importance of the object she clutches in her hand. The old man's concern extends beyond their immediate predicament. He stresses that the sacrifices of over 10 comrades who perished underwater would be in vain if Yu Ling stays. Yu Ling, burdened by the weight of the situation, contemplates her choices, a tinge of regret coloring her thoughts. Yi Tian, stunned by the revelation of the sacrifices made for the mysterious treasure, couldn't fathom what kind of object could drive people to such lengths. Now that only Yu Ling was alive, the ferocious beast relentlessly pursued Yu Ling. The expiration of her secret art loomed. Tripping and falling to the ground, she fought against her exhaustion. The treasure chest, a coveted prize for which lives were sacrificed, rolled close to Yi Tian. With her remaining strength, Yu Ling opened her eyes, attempting to discern the identity of the person standing beside her. The situation hung in a delicate balance, the aftermath of the intense battle leaving both physical and emotional scars on those involved. The darkness had called upon, and now this creepy place looked even creepier. The shadows deepened, casting an eerie ambience over the already unsettling place. As Yi Tian vigilantly watched over Yu Ling, he couldn't fathom why she remained unconscious for so long. Frustration laced his voice as he questioned how much longer she intended to stay in that state. Yi Tian had draped his coat over Yu Ling, his gaze fixed on her form. Eventually, Yu Ling stirred, and Yi Tian discerned the signs of her awakening. As she sat up, a sharp ache throbbing in her head, she immediately recognized Yi Tian by her side. Inquiring whether he was the one who rescued her, Yi Tian downplayed the situation, attributing their meeting to pure coincidence. Grateful for the borrowed shirt, Yu Ling expressed her thanks, to which Yi Tian nonchalantly responded. Observing Yi Tian's solitary journey to the Death Sea, Yu Ling couldn't help but acknowledge his confidence. Well, this type of talent, Yu Ling was certain that she must definitely make him join the martial pavilion. Yu Ling, with a mischievous glint in her eyes, conjured a radiant light using a spell. The sudden brightness caught Yi Tian off guard, and he couldn't help but express his surprise, questioning what she was up to. Yu Ling, with a playful smile, remarked on how she seemed to have startled him. She proceeded to introduce the source of light, a light stone, explaining its ability to store light, essentially functioning as a portable lantern. Yi Tian, intrigued, closely examined the peculiar stone. His curiosity led him to inquire about its origin. Yu Ling, delighted by his interest, shared her plan to reveal the details after consuming a recovery potion. With a swift gulp, she downed the potion, leaving Yi Tian to wonder if it could be some form of spatial talent. However, considering Yu Ling's known talents, he quickly dismissed the possibility. As Yu Ling entered a meditative state to complete the recovery process, Yi Tian awaited the unveiling of the stone's mysteries. After completing the recovery process, Yu Ling approached Yi Tian and urged him to stand up. Yi Tian complied, and Yu Ling, eager to share the details of her possessions, began by presenting a box. She prompted him to examine it closely, explaining that despite the box being larger than a pocket bag, this pocket bag had a remarkable capacity. Yi Tian quickly deduced that it wasn't a space talent but a space attribute item. Yu Ling then inquired if Yi Tian liked the items and if he wanted to learn about them. However, before he could respond, she swiftly proposed that if he joined the martial pavilion, she would take him to their headquarters. Etienne, sensing her intentions, interrupted and claimed fatigue, expressing his intention to sleep. He was well aware of her attempt to recruit him and wasn't willing to fall into that trap. This unexpected response left Yuling taken aback and frustrated. But she retaliated by labeling Etienne as a scoundrel and warned him to wait and watch, determined to persuade him to join them eventually. As Etienne rested, he pondered over the space pocket bag and the special recovery potion. Once he successfully copied the space and recovery talents, these items would no longer be considered rare. However, a new problem arose. Yuling's interference in the Death Sea had disrupted its peace, and Etienne was certain it wouldn't be calm for some time. The following morning, Etienne woke up to a bright environment. He stretched and noticed that Yuling had already left. Looking around, he spotted a box on the ground. Initially thinking they were in a cave, he was surprised to find otherwise. Curious, he opened the box and couldn't believe his eyes. It was filled with treasures. Among them were the intermediate Yuan energy forging technique, 10 vials of advanced rank ferocious monster's blood, and 10 gold cards each containing $1 million. Etienne wondered if Yuling had left these for him. Now present in the Death Sea, Etienne decides to explore the area. During his walk, he stumbles upon a freshly dug grave, the 11th one. Realizing that Yuling must have made it for those who lost their lives, Etienne admires her care and compassion. Despite the harsh conditions and the likelihood of no remains left, she took the time to create a grave before leaving. Continuing his exploration, Etienne finds the umbrella that the old man and Yuling used for diving underwater. Curious about its condition, he picks it up and opens it, discovering that it's perfectly functional. Etienne learns that the umbrella acts as a waterproof barrier, prompting him to dive into the water without hesitation. As Etienne enters the water, he expresses admiration for the umbrella, recognizing it as a fantastic item. Floating on the sea, he revels in the newfound ease of going underwater, his speed significantly enhanced by the umbrella. Activating his dark shadow talent, Etienne moves forward cautiously. Suddenly, he notices something in the water, prompting a status window to appear. It's a tiger octopus with a medium rank bloodline talent. Continuing his exploration, Etienne encounters an intermediate rank ferocious beast, narrowly avoiding detection. Deciding to dive even deeper, Etienne reaches the sea floor, the deepest part of the ocean. He scans the surroundings, contemplating whether this place holds the elusive Turritopsis nutricula. Just then, something massive begins approaching him, introducing a new element of suspense to his underwater journey. Etienne is caught off guard as something powerful smashes into him underwater. Startled, he turns to face the source of the impact, and the status window appears, revealing the legendary name of the beast, Turritopsis nutricula. This ferocious beast possesses an advanced rank recovery talent. Despite the ferocity of the beast, Etienne is thrilled to have finally found Turritopsis nutricula. The creature, however, is not pleased and launches attacks against Etienne. Undeterred, Etienne attempts to defend himself, knowing that he needs to touch the beast to copy its advanced recovery talent. The battle unfolds with the beast displaying remarkable recovery abilities typical of an advanced rank talent. Etienne eagerly anticipates copying such a valuable skill. When the creature swings toward him once again, Etienne seizes the opportunity, grabbing hold of Turritopsis nutricula. He clings to the beast until the status window signals that he has successfully copied the advanced rank recovery talent. Now that the talent was copied, it was time to run. Etienne swims as fast he could to save his life. Upon successfully copying the talent from Turritopsis nutricula, Etienne wastes no time and decides to make a run for it. However, the ferocious beast, with its octopus-like legs, surrounds him, making escape seem nearly impossible. Undeterred, Etienne activates his speed talent, pushing it to its maximum output. Through sheer determination, he manages to break free from the clutches of the deadly creature in the treacherous Death Sea. Even after emerging from the dangerous waters, Etienne doesn't slow down. He runs as fast and as far as possible until reaching a safe location. Finally able to catch his breath, Etienne reflects on his narrow escape, grateful to have avoided the clutches of the ferocious Turritopsis nutricula. Prioritizing his safety, Etienne decides to fuse the recovery talent he just acquired. Bracing himself for the familiar electrifying pain, he selects yes when prompted by the status window. His body, accustomed to the fusion process from previous talents, assimilates the advanced rank recovery talent without much struggle. After a while, the status window confirms the successful fusion, and Etienne excitedly checks his status, confirming the presence of the newly acquired advanced rank recovery talent. With the fusion process proving to be simpler than anticipated, Etienne decides to put his newly acquired recovery talent to the test. Knowing the deadly nature of Turritopsis nutricula's poison, he applies it to his hand, fully aware that normal individuals could succumb to its effects with just a single drop. However, thanks to his advanced rank recovery talent, Etienne remains unscathed. Not only does the talent neutralize the poison, but there are also no discernible side effects, solidifying its effectiveness. Reflecting on his current set of talents, Etienne acknowledges that most of them fall into the support category. Understanding the need to confront stronger adversaries, he concludes that acquiring an offensive talent is imperative. With this realization, Etienne decides it's time to return home, where he can contemplate and select a potent offensive talent for future challenges. Upon returning home, Etienne immediately immerses himself in the search for an offensive talent. His exploration through various books introduces him to options like the Strong Power Bear and the Phoenix Talent, but neither seems particularly appealing. As he continues to flip through the pages, EU interrupts him, expressing her frustration at his prolonged absence. EU, determined to maintain her big brother's appearance, takes charge and starts cutting his overgrown hair. Apologizing to his sister, Etienne returns to his search, eventually stumbling upon the divine power ant. These low-rank ferocious beasts are recognized for their strength and tendency to attack in groups. Realizing the potential of this offensive talent, Etienne decides that it will be his next choice. With his decision made, Etienne heads to the Martial Pavilion, where he is resolute about encountering the Mo family's members once again to settle down some old accounts. With this, Etienne's journey to enhance his abilities continues, fueled by the quest for a powerful offensive talent. In the bustling atmosphere of the Lin High base, a crowd gathered to hear their leader's address. The leader began by emphasizing the challenges faced by their small base, citing limited resources that struggled to meet everyone's cultivation needs. To overcome these limitations, they proposed a new strategy, engaging in trade with medium-scale bases. The leader expressed the significance of the upcoming operation, acknowledging potential risks in dealing with monsters but promising unprecedented benefits in loot. The citizens listened attentively, absorbing the leader's words as he assured them that the rewards of this operation would surpass any previous hunts. The speech concluded with the leader earning the resounding approval and cheers of the people, who praised the Lin family's awesomeness. As Etienne passed through the crowd, he couldn't help but notice a familiar face among them, the leader of the Gale Wolf team. Like the others, he too expressed pride and approval for the leader's plans, raising his hand high up in the air. Etienne pondered whether the Gale Wolf team's leader still remembered him from their previous encounters. The Lin family's representative, Lin Mingjai, reassured everyone that this place was theirs to ensure no worries. He vowed that whatever they acquired during the operation would belong to them. This promise ignited a particular excitement among the crowd, amplifying their cheers for Lin Mingjai. This declaration solidified the Lin family's status as the finest in their eyes. Lin Mingjai then detailed additional rewards for the top participants: 20 intermediate ferocious beast blood samples and 2 million credits for those at the martial artist realm, while elite martial artists would receive 3 advanced ferocious beast blood samples and 10 million credits each. He encouraged everyone to register and wished them a successful hunt, resulting in another burst of joyous cheers from the crowd. Individuals seeking testing were instructed to queue up, placing their hands on the testing stone to determine their combat abilities. As the tests progressed and people's ranks were displayed based on their abilities, Etienne observed the situation. He agreed with Yu Ling's advice, believing they shouldn't align themselves with these influential families, especially the deplorable representative from the Mo family. Amidst these thoughts, Etienne fretted that being identified as an elite martial artist might attract unwelcome trouble. Understanding the stone primarily detected strength, he strategized to use less power to possibly appear as a lower realm. At the lady's request for Etienne to place his hand on the stone, he complied, employing his strategy of suppressing his strength. His plan succeeded as the stone indicated Etienne as a martial artist of advanced rank, earning him a pass. Moen was taken aback by Etienne's advanced rank as a martial artist. Surrounding individuals cheered for Etienne, praising his astounding achievement at such a young age. Speculations arose, pondering whether he hailed from a prestigious family or possessed an innate genius. Observers marveled at his incredible cultivation progress considering his youth. He had just exposed a portion of his combat ability and it drew so much attention. Shyly departing from the attention, Etienne questioned if he had inadvertently revealed too much about his powers. Meanwhile, the leader of the Gale Wolf team, being much older and stuck at the advanced rank, admired Etienne's exceptional talent, recognizing the vast disparity between their achievements. The team members acknowledged their own limitations and noted Etienne's unique prowess. Discussing the team's lack of a certain caliber, they contemplated inviting Etienne to join them, understanding that someone of his advanced rank would be sought after by many. With Etienne approaching, they speculated about his intentions as he walked towards their group. Etienne strides purposefully and halts near the Gale Wolf team, drawing back his hood to reveal his face. With a greeting, he addresses the team leader, reminiscing about their past encounter when they attempted to rescue a young girl from the Silver Moon Wolf. The team leader is astonished at Etienne's transformation into an advanced rank martial artist within just a year, a development he never anticipated. Etienne modestly attributes his progress to luck, downplaying the accomplishment. Cutting to the chase, Etienne directly asks the team leader if he could join the Gale Wolf team for their upcoming operation. The team leader's enthusiastic response suggests that he had been eagerly waiting for this moment. With joy, he warmly welcomes Etienne to join their ranks. In turn, Etienne extends his greetings to the team, expressing his trust in their care. The team decides to work hard together, fighting. The lone female member of the team expresses her relief at having an additional advanced rank martial artist alongside them. Etienne blushes slightly at her comment. As the mission commences and the team enters the designated area, they remain cautious, aware that although the maps indicate low-rank ferocious beasts, it's best to stay alert. The team leader emphasizes the need for caution and advises against reckless actions. When monsters approach the team, Etienne quickly alerts the leader, noting their swift approach. Maintaining calm, the Gale Wolf team leader reassures everyone, considering these monsters mere appetizers. He swiftly devises a strategy, assigning the front monsters to himself while delegating the rear ones to Etienne. The rest of the team is instructed to provide support and observe the situation closely. With unanimous agreement, Etienne confidently steps forward, assuring them that he's got the monsters under control. The low-rank ferocious beasts surround the members of the Gale Wolf team, prompting them to execute their planned strategy. The team leader reminds Etienne of the importance of coordinated attacks, and Etienne acknowledges this with a thumbs up, signaling the beginning of the intense battle. He leaps into action, swiftly engaging the beasts with precise slashes from his blade, leaving no opening for counterattacks. As he finishes off one direction of monsters, he swiftly transitions to the others. Facing a particularly menacing beast, Etienne fearlessly confronts it, delivering a powerful kick that catches it off guard. Seizing the opportunity, he jumps and swiftly dispatches the creature with a precise stab from his blade. The team leader observes Etienne's skillful attack, applauding his tactics and acknowledging his impressive abilities. Despite praising Etienne, the leader boasts about his own prowess, claiming to have taken down 3 beasts, subtly indicating Etienne's slower pace. Well, Etienne could have done much better, but he intentionally held back to conceal his true strength, modestly downplays his performance. The team members, however, are thoroughly impressed by Etienne's skill and express their admiration, their regard for him growing with each moment of the battle. Another teammate marvels at Etienne's exceptional cultivation at such a young age. He cautions the team leader to mind what he says and not to become too arrogant due to this fact. The team leader takes the member aside and playfully scolds him for not allowing a moment of boasting and embarrassing the leader in jest. The teammate swiftly apologizes to the leader, who chides him with playful banter. Meanwhile, Etienne observes the interaction from a distance. As chaos erupts with the appearance of another beast, this one imbued with fire, the team members step up. They tell their leader that he and Etienne handled the side dishes, referring to the low-rank ferocious monsters, and it was now their time to shine and confront this new threat. They're geared up with weapons, ready to engage the beast. The leader assesses the situation, determining that despite being a novice-rank ferocious beast, they should be cautious due to its fire capabilities. The team members affirm their readiness and swiftly move to confront the monster. Etienne expressed deep concern for their safety and asked about their well-being. The team leader reassured Etienne, stating that it was merely a novice-rank ferocious beast and there was little cause for worry. However, the situation was chaotic with fire engulfing the area, creating a scene of intense turmoil. Eventually, the members of the Gale Wolf team emerged from the fiery ordeal, and reported their victory to their leader. The team leader praised the members for their performance, commending their efforts. The girl, modestly, felt she hadn't contributed much, but one of the other members disagreed, acknowledging her role in diverting the beast's attention with her arrows, aiding in the swift defeat of the creature. Meanwhile, the third member expressed a sense of disappointment, considering the novice rank ferocious beast to be too weak for a proper challenge, as it didn't even provoke a damn sweat. He confidently stated that facing 2 or 3 more of those beasts would be manageable. However, as he mentioned them, more beasts suddenly appeared, attacking him. Surprised by the sudden onslaught, Etienne swiftly dodged their attacks. The situation intensified as it became evident that there were more of these fire-type ferocious beasts surrounding them. Etienne realized the ordeal was far from finished. As his teammates glanced over, he seen that 3 of these ferocious beasts fixated hungrily on him, poised to launch their attack. The leader of the Gale Wolf team acted swiftly, immediately reaching out for help via the walkie-talkie. He urgently relayed their dire situation in Area C to the nearby team in Area B, requesting assistance not once, but twice. The looming threat of the 3 ferocious beasts intensified as they drew dangerously close to the Gale Wolf team, poised to strike at any moment. The walkie-talkie crackled with anticipation, but to the leader's dismay, there was no response to their distress call. Frustrated and anxious, the team leader lamented that the others seemed to have ignored their plea for help. Another team member voiced their disappointment, expressing doubts about the concern of the Lin family, implying they seemed indifferent to their potential peril. Such callous disregard left the team leader disillusioned and angry. He unleashed a torrent of frustration, denouncing the Lin family for their lack of response and care. He crumpled the useless walkie-talkie in frustration, expressing disbelief that the Lin High Base could be so neglectful and uncaring in a critical moment. The Lin High Base was already rotten. Amidst the chaos, the team leader urged his teammates to flee while he confronted the approaching monsters. However, his suggestion was met with strong resistance from his team. One member rebuked the leader, expressing that his words lacked the camaraderie of brotherhood. They insisted that if the leader desired their departure, they would depart together as a team. Despite the leader's commands, the team members remained hesitant, unwilling to comply. A member, fed up with the situation, openly rebelled against the Gale Wolf team, labeling them as foolish for not escaping imminent danger. Disregarding the team's reluctance, he decided to depart solo, advising the others to continue playing their futile game as he left. The remaining team members were irked by their teammates' behavior, deeming him an unreliable newcomer. Frustration boiled over, and one of them vowed to ensure consequences if the renegade survived this perilous situation. The team leader approached Etienne, recognizing his talent and attempting to convince him to leave for his safety. He expressed regret at the prospect of losing Etienne and urged him to take 2 of his brothers and escape together. The remaining teammates were taken aback, almost forgetting that Etienne was part of their group. One advised Etienne to leave swiftly if he intended to do so, while the girl warned him not to jeopardize his promising future. In response, Etienne coyly acknowledged his intention to run, but not away from the danger. Instead, he would confront it head-on. Unveiling his true power stunned the team leader, who recognized the elite martial artist's aura emanating from Etienne. The revelation surprised the other teammate, who found it hard to believe. Etienne, realizing that staying back was the only option to save the Gale Wolf team, engaged the monsters with calculated attacks. Originally, Etienne had presumed that with the team leader's combat prowess, escaping alone would be a viable choice. However, the situation demanded a different approach, compelling Etienne to take action to protect his teammates. Etienne understood that concealing his true power would dehumanize him in the eyes of others. Simultaneously, he engaged in continuous combat against the ferocious monsters, unleashing relentless attacks. He realized that failing to act would equate him to the detestable individuals from the Mo family. Despite the risks of drawing further danger by revealing his true strength, Etienne couldn't afford to dwell on it at that moment. He held the belief that the Gale Wolf team leader wouldn't cause him any trouble. Amidst the chaos and the spreading fire, the onslaught of attacks continued. The Gale Wolf team members were enthralled by the display of an elite martial artist's combat prowess. Witnessing Etienne fervently battling the ferocious beasts, he utilized his dark shadow talent efficiently, executing powerful shadow slashes that elicited agonizing cries from the beasts. The Gale Wolf team leader acknowledged Etienne's immense power, recognizing him as a part of the Lin High Base's peak strength at that stage. However, amidst the chaos, a distress call caught their attention. It was one of their team members, surrounded by ferocious beasts, pleading for help. He had abandoned the team and was now in danger. When alerted about their teammates' plight, the team leader remained resolute, refusing to aid him after his selfish act of abandoning them. Etienne, meanwhile, rejoined the team, grabbed his bag, and proposed to venture deeper. He invited the team to decide whether they wanted to accompany him or stay behind. With a welcoming smile, he extended the invitation for a more profound adventure. Respecting Etienne's decision, the team leader declared that the Gale Wolf team would stay or leave together. Etienne bowed in appreciation of his brief yet cherished time with the team, acknowledging their solidarity. After the battle's end, the Gale Wolf team tended to their wounds, with the girl assisting a teammate in binding his injuries while teasing him to compare himself to Etienne. Grateful for being led deeper, the team leader thanked Etienne. However, Etienne wasn't content. He wished to delve even further to test something. Proposing to continue alone, Etienne asked the team members to stay behind while he pressed on. Despite concerns raised by a team member about the wisdom of diving deeper at that point, Etienne cheerfully agreed to proceed solo. The team leader felt a hint of worry, but knowing Etienne's exceptional combat skills, he tried to reassure himself. Yet, the leader remained uneasy. Etienne, however, assured the captain not to worry and he departed alone into the depths. Etienne left without waiting for a discussion, prompting one of the team members to inquire about their next move. The team leader suggested letting Etienne go his own way, acknowledging that accompanying him would only hinder him and create unnecessary burden for him. Fully aware of Etienne's combat prowess, the leader felt confident that Etienne could handle any situation alone. Etienne, guided by his instincts, ventured forth independently. He followed his heart and walked on his own path, intent on exploring his recovery talent's strength before confronting stronger factions. Etienne navigated through the aftermath of the chaotic battleground. Amidst the wreckage and remnants of the monsters, he caught a foul odor, signaling the potential proximity to the creature's nest. Etienne, perturbed by the escalating stench, tightly pinched his nose to endure the smell. Amidst this discomfort, he observed strange occurrences around him, prompting him to wonder about the oddity. Suddenly, a barrage of attacks targeted him, yet Etienne deftly evaded them unharmed. However, a forceful punch swiftly followed, originating from a formidable entity. Swiftly dodging the monstrous grip, Etienne narrowly escaped the creature's clutches. As the beast lunged toward him, attempting to strike, it inadvertently ripped through the ground. Utilizing the terrain to his advantage, Etienne swiftly maneuvered across the terrain, narrowly evading the pursuing monster. Upon standing upright, the creature's immense size became apparent, drawing Etienne's attention. It was such a big fella. Astonishingly, Etienne welcomed this mighty creature as an ideal test subject for evaluating his recovery talent, acknowledging the opportunity with a broad smile. Etienne faced off against the colossal Lizard King, a beast of immense size and ferocious attacks. Unfazed, the creature unleashed a torrent of flames in Etienne's direction. Confident in his recovery talent, Etienne boldly leaped into the fire, assured of his ability to withstand the assault. Meanwhile, observing the intense battle from a distance, the Gale Wolf team noticed the fiery clash and promptly informed their captain. Witnessing the inferno, the team leader grew concerned for Etienne's safety. However, this challenge was anticipated, for it was none other than the formidable Lizard King engaging Etienne in combat. Etienne, standing defiantly before the Lizard King, proposed a more thrilling engagement. Embracing the intense battle, Etienne eagerly welcomed the opportunity to test his recovery skills. Determined to make the fight fair and square, he challenged whether the Lizard King could incinerate him before or will he be successful to vanquish the monstrous creature first. Etienne, standing resolute amidst the raging flames, skillfully harnesses his recovery talent, rejuvenating himself swiftly. With renewed vigor, he devises a calculated strategy, meticulously planning his moves. Initiating his calculated plan, Etienne springs into action, charging at the Lizard King with his blade in hand. In a fiery clash of attacks, Etienne engages the monster, while the Lizard King retaliates with scorching flames that engulf the surrounding area. Observing from a distance, the Gale Wolf team anxiously awaits the outcome of this fierce confrontation. Wondering if the battle unleashed a side blaze, they speculate on Etienne's survival as time stretches on. Passing an hour since the combat began, amidst the searing heat and flames, Etienne eventually lowers his blade, wiping away the perspiration. In this heated contest, it appears that Etienne emerged victorious from this intense duel. With the chaos subsiding, Etienne refocuses on his primary mission, to obtain the divine power of an ant. Despite the humble status of a low-rank ferocious beast, the god power ants were abundant within their nests. Even a formidable martial artist would find escape impossible within the confines of the ants' domain due to their overwhelming numbers and collective strength. As Etienne bids farewell to the Gale Wolf team, they caution him to exercise extreme caution when facing the god power ants. Upon reaching the main gathering area, he observes the Mo family assembled, followed by the Lin family with their entourage. Among them stands an unfamiliar elderly figure, leaving Etienne curious about his family affiliation. The distinguished figure was Elder King from the Steel Fang base. Instantly sensing someone watching from above, he sternly questions the peeping individual, asking who was peeking at him. Well, this old man was very strong. Swiftly identifying Etienne from a distance at a reasonable height, Elder King commands his people to capture him. Unperturbed by the capture as he intended to join the team eventually, Etienne is brought down and declared caught by the Steel Fang base men. Elder King, upon observing Etienne, discerns his elite martial artist's combat ability and regards him as a young one. He demands to know Etienne's identity and why he was covertly observing from a distance. Etienne confidently stands before the assembly and respectfully informs Elder King that he belongs to the Lin High base as a martial artist. He explains that upon learning about a significant mission, he arrived to offer his assistance. Responding to Elder King's inquiry, the Mo and Lin family members deny any association with Etienne, claiming no knowledge of him. Elder King acknowledges Etienne's remarkable achievement as an elite martial artist at such a young age, yet he harbors doubts about Etienne's lack of recognition within the martial arts community. At that moment, Lin family's representative, Lin Mingjai, steps forward, chuckles, and dismisses Elder King's concerns, stating that Etienne is indeed part of their Lin family. He affirms Etienne's affiliation by placing a hand on his shoulder, asserting his connection to their family. Upon discovering Etienne's elite martial artist status, Lin Mingjai promptly claimed Etienne as part of his family. This was expected from the renowned Lin family, known for swiftly recruiting talented individuals, often faster than the Mo family. Etienne grins in response to Lin Mingjai's claim, earning a scolding for standing idly. Lin Mingjai asks if Etienne still refuses to return to his team, prompting Etienne to nod and rejoin the Lin High base group. Lin Mingjai feels a sense of pride, having secured a valuable elite martial artist for the family. Meanwhile, from a distance, Yu Ling and Xiao Yu observe the situation. Xiao Yu feels annoyed by the Lin family's attempt to recruit Etienne, questioning whether her previous thoughts were accurate. Seeking guidance, she turns to her lady boss, Yu Ling, who asserts that Etienne solely belongs to their martial pavilion and won't tolerate any interference. The troops of various families march together on the path, led by their respective leaders. Elder King took the forefront, guiding the entire assembly. With Etienne's elite martial artist status exposed, maintaining a low profile in his pursuit of strength seemed increasingly challenging. Yet, Etienne's current combat prowess instilled a sense of confidence within him. Suddenly, Elder King signaled for everyone to halt as they reached their destination. One of the leaders stepped forward to arrange an array. Upon completing the arrangement, the leader reported to Elder King, confirming that everything was prepared and the array was in place. Elder King surveyed the area and indicated that the god power ant's nest lay ahead, positioned in front of the sand mountain. Observing this, everyone took a quick glance, and Etienne was notably content, having finally arrived at his intended destination. Commending the person who set up the array, Elder King requested them to step back. He then instructed everyone to move away from the area. Some among them wondered about the intentions of the old man. Elder King joined his hands and swiftly created a massive formation over the mountains. Upon activating the spell, he slammed his hands onto the ground, causing it to open. This action resulted in a rain of bursting flames, causing chaos throughout the area. Witnessing this, Lin Mingjai was astonished by Elder King's array mastery, realizing the incomparable combat ability of the Steel Fang base. Etienne was stunned by the sheer power of the array, recognizing its strength as something worth learning in the future. Xiao Yu and Yu Ling also observed the scene, with Xiao Yu deeming the old man as crazy for employing such a valuable array. Yu Ling speculated that the Steel Fang base likely had their own strategic intentions, leading Elder King to act as he did. Despite the shock caused by the flame-burst rain, it proved to be highly beneficial for the Lin High base. Amidst the commotion, someone from the crowd shouted that the ant nest mountain had been crushed, drawing everyone's attention. The onlookers couldn't believe the array's might, wondering if it had obliterated all the monsters. They were somewhat relieved that not even the corpse of a god power ant could be seen. The crowd searched around frantically for any sign of the ant corpses, but came up empty-handed. Etienne felt disheartened, considering the possibility that all the creatures were indeed crushed. He understood that if the corpses were damaged, he wouldn't be able to replicate their talents. Meanwhile, Yu Ling had a hunch about the situation. She believed the array's power was too significant to be used merely to crush the ants. To her, it felt more like poking a beehive without causing any real harm. Amid the search, one of the men investigating stumbled upon peculiar black holes scattered across the ground. They were so dark that nothing within was visible. However, upon closer inspection, the man's mind was thrown into disarray as he noticed something highly unusual. Sparks were emerging from these holes. It seemed as though something was going to sprang out in a good number from these tiny holes. The flickers of light, which were first seen as mere sparks within those holes, soon transformed into the stuff of nightmares. In a flash, massive ants emerged from the darkness, startling even the bravest among the warriors. Without hesitation, the ants launched their attack, instilling fear in everyone who stood their ground. The god power ants spread out, their presence alone striking terror into the hearts of the onlookers. Moen immediately identified these powerful creatures, leaving the others in disbelief. Amidst the chaos, Etienne was the only one sporting a confident smile. As people analyzed the unfolding situation, they realized the sheer multitude of these god power ants, arriving as a massive clan. Elder King swiftly commanded everyone to prepare for battle, urging them to ready themselves. Once geared up, he issued the order to charge. Lin Mingjai, rallying the martial artists of the Lin High Base, directed them to follow him into battle. With a resounding call, he urged them to eliminate the monstrous threat, and so commenced the most intense and gripping battle. Etienne charged ahead, determined to fulfill his mission. Alongside another martial artist, he swiftly dispatched one of the ants. Observing this, the leaders instructed everyone to continue eliminating the monstrous creatures after felling one. Yet, Etienne stood firm near the fallen god power ant, swiftly touching it to copy its advanced strength talent. In a matter of moments, the status window confirmed the successful acquisition of the advanced strength talent, leaving Etienne awed by its power. As the status window appeared again, offering the option to fuse the talent, Etienne found himself in a perilous spot, surrounded by 3 god power ants ready to strike. Realizing the risk, he swiftly made a decision. He needed a safer location to proceed with the talent fusion. Activating his speed talent and wielding his shadow blade, he skillfully engaged the ants, using the shadow slash technique to match their movements and attacks. As the martial artists battled the formidable god ants, an ominous and oppressive sensation began to weigh upon them, signaling the imminent arrival of a powerful adversary, an advanced rank ferocious beast. Elder King swiftly perceived the looming threat and sensed the imminent danger it posed in their current situation. Suddenly, a colossal figure descended onto the battleground. It was the advanced rank god power ant, an immense presence that sent shockwaves through the fighters. An urgent warning spread, urging everyone to retreat immediately. The elders of the Mo family were among the first to dash away, showcasing remarkable speed in their escape. Lin Mingjai, leading his troops, promptly decided on a retreat strategy. Observing their hasty departure, Yu Ling couldn't help but regard them with a wry smile, deeming their collective actions as that of sheer folly. Well, these were indeed a group of pure idiots. Yu Ling promptly directs Xiao Yu to retreat, emphasizing the need to vacate the area swiftly. Xiao Yu, looking back with concern for Etienne, receives assurance from Yu Ling that Etienne possesses the capability to navigate this perilous situation successfully. Amidst the retreat, the martial artists engaged in heated discussions, questioning the decision to flee despite having formidable members within their team. However, a knowledgeable warrior shed light on the situation, highlighting the god power ant's advanced strength talent, and the formidable attack power of the advanced rank ferocious beast. Strengthened by this talent, it could even challenge a grandmaster. The magnitude of the threat was undeniable, making it impossible for even skilled martial artists to contend with. As they contemplated the severity of the situation, they couldn't help but notice the swiftness with which Elder King from Steel Fang Base had fled. Some elders from different families cursed Elder King for their substantial losses, attributing blame to his hasty retreat. This experience left Etienne disillusioned, realizing that these influential figures from the prominent families weren't as trustworthy as he once thought. The warriors, desperate and being pursued by the ferocious god power ant, cried out for aid, but the beast remained relentless. Unfortunately, no one possessed the ability to save another in this dire situation. Panic and chaos engulfed them, the atmosphere growing ominous as the air became oppressively thick. Even ordinary martial artists struggled to move and breathe freely, bewildered by the strange phenomenon. In the midst of this turmoil, one observer noticed Etienne maneuvering swiftly among the distressed crowd. Astonished at Yitian's agility and speed amidst the chaos, he marveled at how Yitian seemed unaffected by the air pressure. Meanwhile, Yitian, recognizing the abnormality as some form of air pressure, made a swift decision to escape the suffocating environment. After a while, Yitian managed to extricate himself from that perilous place. Aware that the gold-colored ants were fixated on the team, he realized it was his cue to depart, leaving the chaos behind. Yitian returned to the spot where he had last rendezvoused with the Gale Wolf team, only to find the skeletal remains of the beast strewn around. He noted the team's professionalism in efficiently dismantling the creature's remains, leaving behind only the bones. As the area held nothing of significance anymore, Yitian agilely navigated through the scattered debris, leaping over buildings until he found a suitable location before dusk settled. Settling down, Yitian initiated a crucial procedure. The status window reappeared, asking if he wished to fuse the successfully copied advanced strength talent. Without hesitation, Yitian confirmed, initiating the fusion process. Despite the pain and discomfort it brought, Yitian had grown accustomed to this ordeal, knowing that absolute strength was paramount when facing formidable adversaries. With the fusion successfully completed, darkness enveloped the surroundings as the moon ascended into the sky. Yitian felt the surge of newfound power that had now risen within him, signaling that it was time to return home, having attained greater strength for the challenges that lay ahead. The following morning, Yitian sat on the couch, engrossed in meditation. With his newly acquired advanced rank strength talent, boasting a tenfold strength boost, facing a novice great martial artist would be a straightforward task. In the midst of his meditation, Yu, his younger sister, approached him, teasing him about his perpetual stillness. She playfully chided him for his silent demeanor, expressing frustration at his apparent indifference and his demeanor of an untouchable expert. Her annoyance peaked when Yitian remained unresponsive to her banter. She lashed out, asking how he dared to ignore her presence. Yitian, still absorbed in his meditation, didn't react to her, further agitating Yu. She stomped away, venting her frustration, and complained, saying that if this is how Yitian wants to play, then he better not blame her later. She also warns him that if he continued this behavior, he shouldn't expect her sympathy in the future. Yu decided it was her turn to retaliate, aiming to make Yitian taste her power. While preparing the meal, she cunningly added an extra pinch of salt to the dishes. Once done, she called out to Yitian, announcing that the food was ready and inviting him to join her downstairs. Yu had prepared an array of delicious dishes, laying them out on the table. Yitian was delighted to see the spread and praised his sister's efforts. Yu complimented him, mentioning that she had specially prepared these dishes for him as a reward for his hard work. Yitian eagerly grabbed his chopsticks, ready to indulge in the meal, expressing his determination to finish everything. However, their moment was interrupted by a sudden knock on the door, causing Yitian to rush towards it, filled with curiosity. Despite Yu's attempt to persuade him to take a bite before answering the door, he was too swift, reaching the door and swiftly opening it. To his surprise, it was the leader of the Gale Wolf team. Yitian warmly welcomed him inside and inquired about the purpose of his visit. With a cheerful demeanor, the Gale Wolf leader explained that he had come to deliver Yitian his share of the loot. He proudly displayed his backpack, revealing numerous items inside, much to Yitian's surprise. Yitian initially didn't plan to take any loot from the team, suggesting they split it amongst themselves. However, the team leader insisted on everyone having a fair share, adhering to a strong sense of righteousness. Yielding to the team's principles, Yitian accepted his portion graciously. He then extended an invitation to the leader to share a meal together, mentioning that he had something to discuss. The leader, drawn by the tempting spread on the table, couldn't resist and happily joined them. He savored the homemade dishes, expressing his delight at the flavors and confessing it had been a while since he had such delicious homemade food. Yitian encouraged him to eat more, stating he wasn't hungry anymore. Meanwhile, Yu, who had sought revenge by adding extra salt to the food, felt immensely embarrassed. She tentatively asked the leader if he found the food somewhat salty. To her surprise, the Gale Wolf team leader denied any excessive saltiness, suggesting it was rather plain and even indicating she might have used too little salt. Yu, confused by his comment, felt a mix of relief and annoyance as her revenge plan backfired. She retorted, thanking him sarcastically for at least enjoying the food. After a while, Yitian and the leader settled down to relax, enjoying some fruits. The leader picked up on Yitian's earlier mention of having something to ask and initiated the conversation. Yitian explained that he'd been home cultivating and was unaware of recent events. He inquired about the progress of the ferocious beast cleaning plan. The leader informed Yitian about significant losses suffered by the Steel Fang base and their Lin Hai base, which surprised Yitian. Seeking confirmation, Etienne asked if the leader was certain about the extent of the losses. The Gale Wolf team leader affirmed the losses, highlighting the deaths of over 50 elite martial artists, including 3 great martial artists. Etienne probed further, inquiring if these deaths occurred at the location of the God Power Ants, which the leader confirmed. He recounted how even after multiple attempts, the ant nest remained undefeated until the Steel Fang base intervened with the Grandmaster and they finally dealt with the God Power Ants. Etienne concluded that the trade aisle remained open, confirmed by the leader, though he mentioned being unaware of all the details. Contemplating the losses incurred, Etienne pondered on the value of such sacrifices. He realized the need to delve deeper into understanding the Steel Fang base. Later that night, Etienne stepped out to bid farewell to the Gale Wolf team leader. The leader assured Etienne that there was no need to see him off as they would meet frequently. Etienne then wished the leader well as he departed. As he lingered, a stranger approached Etienne, addressing him as Lord Etienne. The man introduced himself as a deacon from the Mo family. Etienne was taken aback by someone from the Mo family seeking him out. The deacon bowed and extended an official invitation from the family head for a meal at the Mo family. Politely, Etienne declined, expressing his desire to stay at home. The deacon swiftly changed his demeanor, revealing his true colors. He grew agitated, stating that rejecting the Mo family's invitation was not an option. Amid the escalating tension, the Gale Wolf team leader intervened to defuse the situation. He attempted to create a peaceful dialogue, but the deacon disregarded his efforts, persisting with Etienne. He resorted to force, warning Etienne to accept the invitation or face consequences. In response, Etienne firmly removed the deacon's filthy grip and used his strength and thrust the deacon's head to the ground. The Gale Wolf leader intervened before the situation escalated further. As the deacon hastily retreated, he threatened Etienne, promising repercussions for his actions. The Gale Wolf team leader advised Etienne against provoking such cunning individuals. Etienne assured him that everything was under control and urged him not to fret. Internally, Etienne pondered over his possession of the advanced strength talent. Despite not exerting much force, he inadvertently broke the Mo family deacon's arm. Meanwhile, within his own territory, the Mo family deacon furiously tore the invitation to shreds. His anger boiled over as he couldn't fathom how Etienne dared to refuse their invitation. He was resolute in making Etienne face the consequences for his rejection. In the Mo family's chambers, the elder sat calmly while his son paced nervously. Suddenly, the Mo family's deacon rushed in, nearly stumbling, and pleaded with the lords for assistance in making decisions. Mo Kangsheng, the family head, confronted the deacon, reminding him that their orders were to invite, not harm. He demanded a detailed explanation of the situation. The deacon began by narrating his encounter with Etienne, emphasizing his own respectful approach. He embellished the story, claiming that Etienne had rudely dismissed him upon learning of his Mo family association and even resorted to physical violence, tearing the invitation. Mo Kangsheng was incensed upon hearing this, his fury surging as he condemned Etienne's arrogance. The force of his rage sent the deacon flying. Amidst the chaos, the Mo family's ancestor coughed, prompting Mo Kangsheng to rush to his side. Assured of his father's well-being, Mo Kangsheng instructed the deacon to leave the room first. Mo Kangsheng retrieved 2 pills and handed them to his father, who swallowed the medicine with a heavy sigh. The aftermath of the battle with the God Power Ant had taken a toll on the ancestor's health, worsening his condition. Despite his efforts to escape using a secret technique, the injuries he sustained were severe, a fact that troubled him deeply. Amidst a cough, he admitted to his son that he had fought fiercely but hadn't anticipated such grave injuries. He grimly acknowledged the seriousness of his situation. In response, Mo Kangsheng offered reassurance, urging his father not to lose hope and promising to aid in his recovery. However, the ancestor, aware of the state of his own body, remained realistic, expressing that he understood the gravity of his condition better than anyone else. The ancestor expressed concern to his son about the potential catastrophe for the Mo family once he passed away, recognizing the absence of a powerful martial artist within their ranks. Mo Kangsheng pondered the gravity of the situation, contemplating whether Etienne might be awaiting an invitation from the Lin family. However, the ancestor asserted firmly that they needed to secure Etienne before the Lin family did. Having failed to invite him, their next step was to capture him. Mo Kangsheng raised doubts about Etienne's allegiance, highlighting that being an outsider, and having a Yi in his surname might hinder his loyalty even if they captured him. In response, the Mo family ancestor produced a bottle containing a special medicine, claiming it could manipulate Etienne's dedication to the Mo family by removing his spirit wisdom. Initially intended for a ceremony, the ancestor decided to use it preemptively. He entrusted the bottle to Mo Kangsheng, emphasizing its importance. Mo Kangsheng, astonished by the contents, acknowledged the dangers posed by this elixir, capable of erasing someone's spirit wisdom. The ancestor poured himself a drink and instructed Mo Kangsheng to eliminate Etienne's spirit wisdom and subsequently indoctrinate him with a fabricated identity. He instructs Mo Kangsheng to inform Etienne that he is the illegitimate son of the ancestor, encouraging him to change his surname to Mo and return to the Mo clan. Mo Kangsheng reacts strongly to this revelation, feeling deeply concerned about his own position within the family. However, the ancestor assures Mo Kangsheng that his position as the family head is secure and that no one would challenge it. He reassures his son that designating Etienne as an illegitimate son within the Mo family would not affect the family's reputation, emphasizing the significance of the Mo surname. Mo Kangsheng chuckles in embarrassment, considering his father's thoughts exaggerated and expressing his worry about any potential impact on the ancestor's standing. The ancestor dismisses these concerns, urging Mo Kangsheng to focus on the task at hand and get things done. Determined, Mo Kangsheng decides to dispatch 10 elders from the Mo family immediately to capture Etienne. He asserts his belief that capturing a small damned Etienne should not be a challenging task and sets out with a firm resolve to achieve their goal. Mo Kangsheng, accompanied by 10 elders, swiftly moves to capture Etienne. One of them stealthily enters Etienne's residence, discreetly reporting back to the others about his successful entry. The leader reiterates their strategy to seize Yu, Etienne's younger sister, as leverage to force Etienne to surrender. The infiltrator acknowledges the plan and proceeds with caution, mindful of the arranged ambush outside, ready to relay any changes in the situation. Entering Yu's room, the man identifies the target. Following the leader's command, he attempts to uncover the person beneath the blanket. However, he asserts his belief that capturing a small damned Etienne should not be a challenging task and sets out with a firm resolve to achieve their goal. Mo Kangsheng, accompanied by 10 elders, swiftly moves to capture Etienne. One of them stealthily enters Etienne's residence, discreetly reporting back to the others about his successful entry. The leader reiterates their strategy to seize Yu, Etienne's younger sister, as leverage to force Etienne to surrender. The infiltrator acknowledges the plan and proceeds with caution, mindful of the arranged ambush outside, ready to relay any changes in the situation. Entering Yu's room, the man identifies the target. Following the leader's command, he attempts to uncover the person beneath the blanket. However, the situation takes an unexpected turn when the blanket suddenly flings onto him. Reacting swiftly, he draws his sword to strike, only to find himself overpowered as a hand swiftly grips his neck. To his surprise, it's not Yu but Etienne himself. Etienne expresses his impatience, questioning their delay and why they are moving so slowly. He makes it evident that he's been waiting for their arrival for a while. Etienne's grin widens as he overhears the leader's inquiry to the man about successfully capturing Yu. The leader requests a response, hoping the man can hear him. Etienne's hold tightens, exerting pressure on the man's neck. Amidst the struggle, the ear pods slip from the man's ears, allowing Etienne to catch the leader addressing the man as the second leader, urging for a swift response. However, the second elder remains incapacitated. Swiftly seizing the opportunity, Etienne retrieves the ear pods and responds, affirming that they've indeed secured someone and that he's in the process of throwing him down right now. Upon hearing an unfamiliar voice, the leader queries Etienne about his identity, but Etienne disregards the question and urges them to secure the person tightly. With determination, Etienne hurls the second elder of the Mo family out of the window. Up above, confusion ensues among the others, while those on the ground confirm the second elder's cessation of breath, marking him deceased. Reacting swiftly, the leader issues an urgent warning for everyone to be cautious, suspecting that Etienne might have summoned reinforcements. Despite hearing the warning, Etienne finds it amusing since he hadn't called for any assistance. Furthermore, within the Lin Hai base, besides Etienne, there wasn't anyone else audacious enough to defy the Mo family. Upon Etienne's arrival at the rooftop, the individuals awaiting him notice his presence. Confusion brews as they inquire about the unknown figure's identity. The Mo family elders grow agitated, demanding a reveal and urging the mysterious presence to show themselves. One elder questions the accuracy of their senses, pondering whether they misinterpreted someone's presence. Unbeknownst to them, Etienne stands right behind, poised to address their inquiries. Swiftly, he strikes another Mo family elder, declaring it as his second conquest. The group concludes that the assailant resembles a dark shadow assassin, unable to fathom that Etienne enlisted such an entity to assail them. Amid the chaos, they hastily disperse, each going their separate ways. Upon unleashing his shadow talent, Etienne swiftly activates his speed talent, engaging the Mo family elders in rapid attacks. Bewildered by Etienne's astounding speed, some elders question this monstrous agility. Etienne remains vigilant, detecting more adversaries and persisting in his assault. During a momentary pause, an elder proclaims the dark shadow assassins reveal as an opportunity for their advantage, attempting to strike Etienne. But to no avail as Etienne skillfully evades the attack. Observing Etienne's extraordinary speed, another elder acknowledges the remarkable agility. Unfazed, Etienne continues his onslaught, wielding his shadow blade and employing the shadow killing technique to dispatch his adversaries. The leader, puzzled by the chaos and unable to understand what was exactly going on, asks someone from the above to respond quickly. But little did he know that there was no one alive up there. After dealing with the elders atop the building, Etienne descends swiftly. Fueled by a determined rage, his eyes full of blood and armed with a lethal weapon, Etienne charges towards the waiting figures on the ground. Detecting the imminent danger, they recognize the aggressor as none other than Etienne himself. The leader commands the other elders to capture Etienne, but subduing him proves challenging. Despite both elders attacking simultaneously, Etienne counters using his immense strength talent, which in turn surprises the Mo family elders to the core. They are left astounded and infuriated by Etienne's ability to neutralize their attacks. Refusing to acknowledge Etienne's newfound strength, the elders are swiftly incapacitated by his skillful strikes. The last remaining elder falls to the ground in disbelief, unable to comprehend the swift turn of events. The elder from the Mo family knew Etienne as just an elite martial artist, unaware of the full truth. Etienne swiftly identifies him as young Master Mo's father, Moen. Moen hastily lowers his mask in acknowledgement when Etienne confronts him. Pleading for his life, Moen attempts negotiation, but Etienne has no intentions of mercy. Etienne discloses a secret. He was responsible for the death of Moen's son, Mo Sheabe. Moen, at that moment, finds himself helpless, acknowledging that his trashy son must have provoked Etienne and deserved his fate. Offering wealth in exchange for his life, Moen pleads with Etienne to spare him, but Etienne smoothly refuses and moves to attack. Apologizing calmly, Etienne asserts his preference for eliminating enemies to prevent further complications. After incapacitating Moen, Etienne underscores that vengeance doesn't linger. He deftly retrieves the cloak from Moen's lifeless body, draping it over himself. It's evident that anyone targeting Etienne or his kin will meet their end. Disguised as one of the 10 elders, he swiftly employs his speed talent, advancing to eliminate the remaining members of the Mo family who pose a threat. Meanwhile, within the Mo family estate, the elderly man continues to suffer from severe coughing fits. He frets over the absence of the 10 esteemed elders and wonders why they haven't returned yet. Mo Kangsheng reassures his father, affirming the unstoppable capabilities of the 10 elders when together at the Lin Hai base. Suddenly, a sword pierces into the room, prompting both to dodge the attack in a bid to save themselves. The ancestor rises, demanding the intruder to reveal themselves. Another sword follows, wielded by its owner as he steps into view. Etienne strides into the room, mocking them for sending assassins while still questioning his identity. He finds their confusion amusing. Mo Kangsheng quickly identifies Etienne and demands an explanation for his presence and the whereabouts of the 10 elders. Etienne, adopting a sinister tone, assures Mo Kangsheng that they'll reunite with the 10 elders soon in the depths of hell. Furious, Mo Kangsheng demands clarification, visibly alarmed by this unsettling declaration. Unfazed, Etienne dismisses his concerns and swiftly launches an attack. His speed and strength make it impossible for Mo Kangsheng to evade the assault. A single strike seals Mo Kangsheng's fate, leaving the elder distraught at the sight of his son's demise. The elder mourns, embracing his deceased son, Mo Kangsheng. Upon standing, he condemns Etienne as a scoundrel. Activating a secret technique, the elder doesn't escape Etienne's notice. Etienne recognizes the technique, linking it to the elder's prior use to flee from the god power ant's nest. Despite this, the elder disregards Etienne's claims, consumed by the fact that Etienne has slain his son. Gradually empowered by the secret technique, the elder vows to end Etienne's life. Fully empowered, he announces his intent to kill Etienne. Swiftly advancing, the elder attempts to crush Etienne with a single punch, but Etienne skillfully evades the attack. Undeterred, the elder strikes again, shattering a formidable wall while Etienne effortlessly dodges once more. The sequence repeats, yet Etienne adeptly evades the attacks, narrowly escaping harm. The elder continues to vilify Yi Tian, deeming him a mere brat and threatening his demise. Despite his intentions to crush Yi Tian into ashes, the elder acknowledges that his hatred for Yi Tian would persist. As the elder confidently advances, the Mo family's guards burst into the room, alerted to the presence of an intruding assassin. The guards prioritize protecting the Mo family ancestor. Observing their delayed reaction to the family head's demise, Yi Tian finds them incompetent and lacks any respect for their incompetence, deeming the entire Mo family. This Mo family was indeed trash from top to bottom. The old man, unable to tolerate Yi Tian any longer, commands the guards to attack. However, before they can strike, Yi Tian swiftly initiates the offensive with a shadow killing technique, swiftly eliminating the entire guard force within minutes. The old man is astonished, realizing that Yi Tian concealed remarkable martial combat abilities all along. Yi Tian mocks the old man, challenging him to test the endurance of his secret technique. The old man, angered by Yi Tian's arrogance, prepares for another attack, commencing a fierce and energy-intensive battle. Meanwhile, outside the Mo mansion, two observers secretly monitor the intense battle within. They recognize the formidable combat prowess of the Mo family and note the intensity of the ongoing fight. Elder Z suggests to his master, the young master, whether they should intervene, but his master advises patience. Pulling down his cloak, Lin Mingjai, the head of the Lin High Base, reveals his identity and decides to observe the situation carefully before taking any action. The battle raged on as the spectators watched from a distance, captivated by the clash of these formidable opponents. The ones fighting were both strong enough and their blades clinked on many a times. Yi Tian appeared composed, fighting with calculated moves, while the Mo family ancestor unleashed his aggression and fervor in the midst of combat. Despite his ferocity, the old man struggled to match Yi Tian's monstrous speed and was surprised by the young fighter's ability to completely block his attacks. As the fight intensified, Yi Tian decided to escalate, wielding his sword with fervent intensity, inflicting more injuries on the old man. Frustrated by his inability to overpower Yi Tian, the ancestor contemplated a swift and brutal end for his opponent. However, Yi Tian continued to evade his attacks, leaving the old man realizing the peril of exhausting his remaining energy while his secret art technique remained unfinished. Recognizing the risk, the Mo family's ancestor strategized to retreat and seek aid from the Lin family, knowing that prolonging the battle could lead to dire consequences for him. Yi Tian, noticing the old man's halt in attacks, goaded him to continue their confrontation. Grinning with confidence, he taunted the Mo family's ancestor, challenging him to handle the ongoing battle. However, the Mo family's ancestor had a cunning plan in store. Swiftly, he produced a grenade and shattered it before Yi Tian, enveloping the area in dense smoke, a well-timed smoke grenade. Realizing the old man's attempt to escape, Yi Tian refused to relent in the battle. Determined, he pursued the fleeing ancestor using his incredible speed. The old man, noticing Yi Tian's relentless pursuit, grew increasingly concerned about his escape efforts. Despite closing in on the old man, Yi Tian surprisingly approached him and quipped that he only wanted to keep the game going and that he wanted to play with him, adding a touch of mockery to their intense encounter. In the midst of the chaos, the old man discerns that his secret art technique is on the brink of concluding. An overwhelming realization hits him, and he collapses to the ground, aware that continuing the fight would now be an arduous task. Frustration sets in as he comprehends that his time is running out. The end was near for the old man. Emerging from the dissipating smoke, Yi Tian materializes, wielding his blade. He declares that it's time to conclude not only the battle but also the Mo family's reign. With determination etched on his face, Yi Tian addresses the old man, indicating that it's time for him to reunite with his wretched family in the realms beyond. In hell. At that moment, the old man attempts to negotiate, addressing Yi Tian as a young master. Surprised by the sudden change in tone, Yi Tian wonders about the old man's intentions. Pleading for mercy, the Mo family's ancestor offers Yi Tian all the treasures held by the family. Yi Tian, sensing a familiar pattern, decides to entertain the proposition, instructing the old man to reveal the treasures. However, this stinky old man harbors ulterior motives. He unveils a particular item, claiming it to be among the treasures, urging Yi Tian to inspect the red ball closely. Yi Tian remains cautious, curious yet vigilant as he examines the enigmatic red sphere. Upon closer proximity to the sphere, numerous small, sharp weapons suddenly extend from it, catching Yi Tian off guard. He leaps back, startled by the unexpected assault. It was a move he hadn't anticipated. The tiny blades scatter in every direction, littering the ground. Yi Tian skillfully lands at a safe distance, knowing well the deceitful nature of the Mo family. Their reliance on such underhanded tactics wasn't surprising. Amused, the Mo family's ancestor chuckles darkly, revealing the poisoned nature of the weapons. He arrogantly declares Etienne as nothing more than prey, and tells Etienne that he was now nothing but just dead meat. In his conviction, the old man is certain that Etienne will ultimately meet his end at his hands. Much to the old man's astonishment, Etienne swiftly recovers, owing to his remarkable recovery talent. The Mo family's ancestor is taken aback by Etienne's unexpected ability. He's left wondering how and why Etienne possesses such diverse talents, but Etienne has no inclination to indulge the old man's curiosity. Unbeknownst to the old man, Etienne retains one poison needle. It's time for Etienne to impart a harsh lesson to the old man. Without hesitation, Etienne hurls the needle toward the old man and launches an attack. In a matter of moments, the Mo family's ancestor is destroyed. Etienne dismisses him, instructing him to seek answers in the depths of hell. At that moment, Captain Galewolf couldn't help but wonder why brother Etienne hadn't returned yet. Voicing his complaint, he likened himself to Yu's babysitter. Etienne suddenly appeared, catching Captain Galewolf off guard. He expressed gratitude for looking after his younger sister, Yu. Pleased with Etienne's return, Captain Galewolf inquired if he had completed the task. Etienne confirmed the situation, asserting that from that day forward, the Mo family no longer existed within the Lin High base. Captain Galewolf celebrated the news, noting Etienne's resolute approach. Etienne then asked about Yu's whereabouts and if any assassins had managed to track her down. Captain Galewolf assured Etienne that the location was secure and mentioned that Yu was resting after taking a tranquilizer. Etienne felt a sense of relief knowing Yu was safe. Captain Galewolf suggested they head indoors, noting the chill on the rooftop. Etienne agreed, and together they descended. With the Mo family eliminated, Captain Galewolf inquired about Etienne's future plans. Etienne revealed his desire for Yu to start cultivating. This surprised Captain Galewolf. Etienne then asked if there was a way for ordinary people to improve quickly. Captain Galewolf chuckled, dismissing the notion and explaining that rapid improvement usually involved significant investments in costly resources, a trend commonly seen among the offspring of influential families. Etienne was skeptical about the simplicity of this solution. As they entered the house, Captain Galewolf directed Etienne to check on Yu, informing him that she was in the upstairs bedroom. Etienne expressed his gratitude and headed upstairs to see Yu. Etienne entered the room to find Yu peacefully asleep. Gently, he woke her up, and she, upon seeing her brother, lit up with joy. Yu immediately jumped up and hugged Etienne tightly, expressing her fear that he wouldn't return. Etienne reassured her, promising that he'd always be by her side. Yu, holding him even tighter, pleaded for honesty, but Etienne proudly affirmed his commitment, assuring her that he wasn't going anywhere. The news of the complete annihilation of the Mo family spread rapidly, leaving people astonished at the strength of the perpetrator. Their discussion was abruptly interrupted by the arrival of the Lin family's young master, Lin Mingjai, accompanied by the esteemed warrior Lin Zi. Both Yu Ling and Xiao Yu were also present. Xiao Yu informed Yu Ling about the Lin family's presence. Lin Mingjai, on seeing the Mo family ancestor's lifeless body, became visibly agitated. He demanded to know who would have anticipated such an end for the Lin patriarch. Picking up the reddish ball, he speculated that it might be the Mo family's secret weapon, their clan's treasure, the Iron Pearl. This weapon was notably sinister, possessing the ability to turn the tides of battle, with a vast attack range and inflicting fatal damage. Lin Zi added that this weapon, the Iron Pearl, could bring about unexpected attacks that even a seasoned warrior might struggle to evade. However, the assailant not only managed to escape after attacking the Mo family's ancestor, but also used the gold needle from the Iron Pearl to eliminate Mo Changking. Survivors attested that there was only one perpetrator, indicating a strength akin to that of a peak great warrior. This assessment seemed undeniably accurate. Lin Mingjai grew concerned that this skilled individual might not be affiliated with their Lin High base. Lin Zi echoed this worry, suggesting that the Iron Fang base might have orchestrated this attack on the Mo family as a show of power. Lin Mingjai shared the same suspicion. Recent interactions proposing a commercial trade route and reports from their spies aligned with this theory. Moreover, they were aware of a significant monster boss near the Iron Fang base that was on the brink of evolving into a king, posing a grave threat to their existence. Lin Zi concluded that what appeared to be a commercial trade route was, in reality, an emigration route for them. Certainly, Lin Mingjai shared this line of thinking. He elaborated that with the merging of the two bases, the powers within would inevitably divide into two factions, representing the new and old orders. As the Lin family's leader, Lin Mingjai recognized that they could no longer solely represent the Lin family but had to symbolize the old power faction. Consequently, he prepared himself to capitalize on the Iron Fang base's demonstration of strength. Lin Mingjai turned to Elder Z and inquired if he understood the next steps. Confident in his mission, Z nodded respectfully, accepting the responsibility. He pledged to personally deliver a letter to every influential family, extending an invitation to utilize the resources previously owned by the Mo family. Meanwhile, Yitian emptied a substantial number of elixirs from his bag, stunning Captain Galewolf with their value. Galewolf couldn't help but express his amazement, wagering that the elixirs were worth more than his entire mansion, a true treasure trove. Yu couldn't believe her brother's actions and promptly questioned if the elixirs were authentic. Worried for her brother's financial well-being, she urged him to return the elixirs immediately to avoid being deceived by unscrupulous sellers, as Yitian had finally managed to save some money for marriage. Yitian assured Yu of the elixir's authenticity and their substantial value. Acting suddenly, he inserted one into Yu's mouth. The elixir swiftly went down her throat, and in an instant, she felt rejuvenated and invigorated, much to her surprise. Yitian was delighted to see her immediate positive reaction. Yitian was preparing to depart once more, and Yu, while sad, understood her big brother's reasons. Yitian revealed his destination, Xiao Kaiani Forest, where he sought something vital. Due to the threat of ferocious beasts, the Steel Fang base had stationed people at the Lin Hai base. Even two ancestor masters couldn't handle the situation. Strengthening his combat abilities became Yitian's priority, compelling him to strive for greater strength than before. Yu, feeling saddened by Yitian's departure soon after his return, entwined her fingers with his, pleading for him to stay. Yitian comforted her, advising her to diligently practice the foundation forging body technique, consume the elixirs regularly, and focus on cultivation. Agreeing reluctantly, Yu requested her brother to be cautious outside and vowed to await his return at home. With a smile, Yitian turned to Captain Galewolf and requested his assistance in caring for Yu. Captain Galewolf warmly assured Yitian that he would look after his little sister diligently, emphasizing that she was like family to him and promising to take good care of her in Yitian's absence. In the midst of their farewells, a high-speed bike approached them, bearing a distinct flag attached to the handle. Captain Galewolf swiftly identified the flag, recognizing it as belonging to the Steel Fang base, and announced their arrival in the city. Yitian was taken aback by their presence, perplexed by the scale of their arrival and questioning why they had come in such numbers. The leader among them proclaimed their entrance into the Lin Hai base with a loud, resounding declaration. The individual leading the troop was Sun Feng, one of the youngest and most talented elites from the Steel Fang base, boasting an intermediate realm in elite martial arts. Yitian quickly identified this troublemaker, and upon seeing Sun Feng's exceptionally high talent showcased in the status window, he was taken aback. Sun Feng's departure on his bike left behind an overwhelming cloud of smoke, causing Yu to cough uncontrollably. She expressed her disbelief and frustration, stating that Sun Feng had clearly gone too far. Yitian felt a strong sense of foreboding and urged Yu to return home quickly. With determination, he activated his speed talent and swiftly departed for his destination. Yu could only hope and wish for her brother's safety during these uncertain times. Yitian ventured into the Xiao Kaiani forest, navigating its dense, desolate expanse. Amongst the thick foliage, he spotted the distinct footprint of the black wolf panther, a telltale sign. Understanding the need to encounter one to enhance his speed talent, he pressed deeper into the forests. A surge of powerful energy disrupted the tranquility, signaling a clash between ferocious beasts. Intrigued, Yitian hastened towards the source. Arriving swiftly, he beheld an awe-inspiring sight, the rare and formidable gold silk dragon leopard. Even mightier than the black wolf panther, this creature possessed advanced rank speed talent. Not just one, but two of these magnificent beasts graced the area, their prowess undeniable. In the midst of this intense battle between the two intermediate gold silk dragon leopards boasting advanced rank speed talent, and the advanced rank gorilla with combat skills akin to a peak great martial artist, Yitian found himself troubled. He pondered how he could possibly replicate the advanced rank speed talent amidst such fierce combat. As he grappled with this concern, a small creature approached him and affectionately licked Yitian. Startled, he turned to see a diminutive gold silk dragon leopard, which emitted a gentle meow, catching Yitian's attention. Etienne approached the adorable creature and inquired about its presence. The small gold silk dragon leopard then activated its spirit soul light, and suddenly, Etienne heard a voice addressing him as its master. The voice expressed willingness to offer its spirit soul light and forge a master and servant contract, pledging unwavering loyalty from that moment forward. The voice, resembling that of a young girl, struck Etienne with confusion. Etienne, bewildered, questioned the little gold silk dragon leopard if it was indeed the one speaking. The creature met Etienne's gaze with its bright eyes and confirmed that it was, indeed, the source of the voice. Etienne wasted no time and inquired why the little gold silk dragon leopard desired him as her master. The small creature explained that she sensed a speed-type aura emanating from Etienne, a familiar and natural sensation to her. Etienne glanced at her status window and was amazed by her phenomenal talents, speed, endurance, recovery, and numerous other potent abilities. This little creature was truly a godlike beast. The little god beast pleaded for mercy, revealing that her parents were in danger, especially her pregnant mother. Etienne understood the gravity of the situation and assured the creature that he would help. He christened her Xiao Jin and declared her as his first beast pet. As Etienne affectionately patted Xiao Jin on her head, she gratefully acknowledged her new master. Thinking swiftly, Etienne swiftly copied the advanced rank speed talent, prompting the appearance of a status window asking if he wished to fuse the talent. Without hesitation, Etienne chose to fuse the talent immediately. Etienne, determined to assist Xiao Jin, readied himself with his formidable weapon, preparing for the impending battle. With Xiao Jin by his side, he strategized his approach. First, he analyzed his stats through the status window and found himself quite capable. Identifying the creature's weaknesses became his priority. Etienne swiftly leaped towards the beast, targeting its eyes with precision. His attack landed successfully, eliciting roars of pain from the creature. As he descended, his attention turned to Xiao Jin's parents, the enraged gold silk dragon leopards. They bellowed angrily at Etienne. Encouraging Xiao Jin to intervene and restore peace, Etienne relied on her to convey that he was not their enemy. He sought to establish an alliance with them, emphasizing that he was now part of their team. In the midst of the intense situation, Xiao Jin becomes the bridge of communication, translating the urgency to her parents with a series of meows. The tension escalates when her mother, for some mysterious reason, scolds Xiao Jin. Etienne swiftly intervenes, offering a recovery pill, urging her to protect the life growing within her. However, when the mother leopard hesitates, Etienne persistently reassures her, requesting trust as he encourages her to consume the pill. The moment she does, gratitude seems to emanate from her grateful meows. The miraculous effects of the recovery pill are evident almost instantly, rejuvenating the mother leopard. Meanwhile, the father leopard, fretting and meowing persistently, catches Xiao Jin's attention. As she prepares to communicate this to Etienne, he instinctively comprehends her unspoken words, swiftly inquiring if the father also requires assistance in the form of a recovery pill. In the heat of the moment, Xiao Jin, deeply moved by Etienne's compassionate act, expresses her gratitude towards her master with an overwhelming enthusiasm. Yet, amidst this emotional exchange, a startling discovery emerges: the gorilla beast attempts to flee. Initially, Etienne remains indifferent, but his attention swiftly shifts as he realizes Xiao Jin's rejuvenated parents have no intention of letting the gorilla escape unpunished. This pivotal moment triggers Etienne's unwavering resolve to stand alongside them till the very end. Despite doubting that their combined prowess couldn't overpower the high-ranked ferocious beast, Etienne is jolted by Xiao Jin's reminder. She, too, is now honing her combat skills, making their force not 3 but 4 strong. This revelation solidifies their united front as they leap towards the formidable adversary with resolute intent to defeat it. Yet, amidst the adrenaline-fueled confrontation, Etienne faces a formidable challenge. The advanced rank speed talent of his adversaries proves overwhelming, its swiftness presents an unparalleled challenge. Despite his relentless efforts, adapting to this accelerated pace remains an insurmountable struggle for Etienne. The valiant warriors, though diminutive in stature, faced off against the towering high-ranked ferocious beasts. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, Etienne swiftly activates his strength talent, launching a relentless assault on the beast. His onslaught continues until the creature starts to falter, ultimately succumbing and collapsing to the ground. Seizing the opportune moment, the gold silk dragon leopards capitalize on the beast's vulnerability, launching their own coordinated attack. The battlefield reaches its zenith of intensity. Amidst the fray, Etienne and Xiao Jin rejoin the conflict, adding their determination and skills to the collective effort against the formidable adversary. After a while, a tremendous explosion rocks the battlefield. Etienne and the gold silk dragon leopard swiftly retreat from the scene, waiting anxiously for the outcome. However, to their dismay, the high-ranked ferocious beast emerges anew from its apparent defeat. Etienne quickly discerns the incredible resilience of the creature's body. In a decisive moment, Xiao Jin perceives an opportunity and moves swiftly to engage the beast. Displaying remarkable power, she strategically targets the creature's weak point, the eyes. In a matter of minutes, she successfully brings down the colossal gorilla, exploiting its vulnerability and forcing it into defeat. Triumphantly, Xiao Jin leaps back onto Etienne's shoulder, declaring their victory with elation. Filled with a sense of accomplishment, Etienne affectionately pets Xiao Jin, reflecting on the unexpected alliance formed in this battle alongside a ferocious beast. As he starts to ease his worries, his attention is drawn to the mother leopard. Holy crap, she was gravely injured. Etienne, aligning with the gold silk dragon leopards, decides to relocate to a more secure location to tend to the injured mother leopard. However, their plans are disrupted as a few other beasts launch an attack. Yet, Etienne refuses to yield, unleashing his talents to fend off the assailants with unwavering strength. As they create distance from the skirmish, Etienne checks their progress. Xiao Jin reassures him that they've reached their destination, a cave up ahead. Once settled inside, Etienne notices a peculiar spirit plant thriving within. Xiao Jin reveals that this plant is her mother's gift to him. However, the mother leopard clarifies that the fruit of this plant will only bloom after a span of 30 days, urging Etienne to exercise patience. Etienne wonders what effect that fruit would have, and now he was looking forward to finding out more about it. After patiently waiting for 30 days, Etienne wanders around the flower, captivated by its increasingly fragrant aroma. Convinced that it must be ripe by now, he plucks the fruit, prompting Xiao Jin to urge him to eat it promptly. Amused by her eagerness, Etienne playfully questions her rush. However, succumbing to Xiao Jin's excitement, he takes a bite of the fruit and savors its effects, feeling invigorated. Under the cover of night, Etienne and Xiao Jin explore the vicinity, stumbling upon the presence of the black wolf leopards. Alerted by Xiao Jin, Etienne becomes cautious, learning from her that these leopards were responsible for luring the high-ranked gorilla beast into the area. Observing their behavior, Etienne deduces their intentions to supplant Xiao Jin's parents and claim dominion as the forest king of the area. Xiao Jin confirms Etienne's suspicions, affirming the insanity of the black wolf leopard's ambitions. The following morning, Etienne and the gold silk dragon leopard family opt to depart from the area. Etienne advises the mother leopard against exerting herself too much due to her recent recovery. However, she turns to Etienne, emitting a series of meows. Xiao Jin steps in to interpret, conveying her mother's assurance that she's alright and desires to gift something to Etienne in gratitude. This unexpected gesture leaves Etienne pleasantly surprised and touched. As night falls and the journey continues, the mother leopard collapses once more. Xiao Jin becomes visibly anxious, prompting Etienne to assess the situation. He deduces that the mother leopard likely sustained internal injuries from the previous battle. Fortunately, Etienne habitually carries an array of healing medicines, providing a stroke of luck in this critical moment. It finally came in handy now. Etienne crouches near the mother leopard, retrieving a bottle containing a rosy-hued potion. He explains to the gold silk dragon leopards that this medicine is specifically designed to heal internal injuries. Encouraging the mother leopard to consume it, Etienne assures her of its effectiveness. Gently administering the potion, he watches over her. After a while, Xiao Jin communicates to Etienne that her mother feels significantly better, expressing gratitude. Once more, in a gesture of gratitude, Xiao Jin extends her thanks to Etienne, accompanied by a few more meows. However, a sudden and alarming change takes place. A distressing transformation seems to overcome Etienne. It appears as though he's about to cough up blood, but instead, he clutches his chest, letting out agonizing screams seemingly out of nowhere. In a startling turn of events, Etienne collapses, unconscious, onto the ground. In the midst of confusion and anxiety, Xiao Jin urgently calls out to her master. As night descends, Etienne gradually begins to feel better. However, a new task emerges for the family. The mother leopard is now in labor. Etienne steps in to assist, guiding her through the process, encouraging her to summon her strength to push the baby leopard into the world. Finally, after a strenuous struggle, the baby leopard arrives. Etienne celebrates the momentous occasion, joyously declaring the birth of another forest king. Gently placing the newborn beside its family, he revels in the profound significance of this new life entering the world. 1 month later, accompanied by the gold silk dragon leopard family, Etienne makes a decision to take Xiao Jin to meet someone special. Xiao Jin's joy knows no bounds, tears of happiness well up in her eyes. Overwhelmed with gratitude, she thanks her master once more, her heart brimming with excitement at the prospect of entering a new world. Etienne and Xiao Jin depart from the place where Xiao Jin had lived since her birth, embarking on a journey to explore the outside world alongside her master. Xiao Jin is immediately captivated by the new surroundings, expressing her fascination at the countless scenes she's encountering for the first time. Her excitement is palpable, yet Etienne, concerned for her safety, affectionately refers to her as a little idiot, cautioning her about the inherent dangers of the outside world. Despite the warnings, they navigate through alleys, jumping across buildings, until they eventually arrive at their intended destination. Having braved the unknown together, Etienne and Xiao Jin arrive at the 5th Academy, but to their dismay, the atmosphere is grim. Etienne then notices a figure lying on the ground, nearly unconscious. It's Zhang Bao. Reacting swiftly, Etienne rushes to Zhang Bao's side, deeply concerned for his condition. With urgency in his voice, Etienne inquires about the situation, demanding to know what had transpired. Struggling to maintain consciousness, Zhang Bao barely manages to recognize his friend, Etienne. Meanwhile, Etienne is relieved that Zhang Bao is still alive despite the dire circumstances. Wasting no time, he retrieves a bottle containing high-tier monster blood, ready to use it to restore Zhang Bao's energy and help him recover. Upon inquiry, Etienne discovers that Zhang Bao had been robbed by warriors from the Iron Fang base. Zhang Bao recounts the devastating news. The monsters had obliterated the Iron Fang base, compelling a mass exodus of 100,000 people to the Lin Hai base. He describes the chaos and lawlessness prevailing due to rampant robbers. Seeking information on the current leadership of the Iron Fang base, Etienne learns that although the Lin family is officially in charge, they're mere figureheads. It aligns perfectly with Etienne's predictions. These individuals had successfully taken control of the situation, manipulating events to their advantage. A determined warrior engages in combat, pouring heart and soul into every strike. Despite the fervor, the attacks lack potency, easily countered by the seasoned trainer. However, the warrior falters, unable to wield the weapon properly, ultimately leading to defeat. Frustration looms as she faces yet another loss. Captain Galewolf consoles EU, acknowledging her efforts and highlighting her latent talent. Encouragement follows as he assures her of her potential. In response, EU proudly attributes her progress to Captain Galewolf's excellent guidance and teaching. EU revels in her progress, feeling a sense of accomplishment with each passing day. Suddenly, a round of applause interrupts her focus. Startled, she turns to find Etienne behind her. Instantly, her face lights up at the sight of her older brother, and she rushes to embrace him tightly, ecstatic at his return. Etienne playfully remarks on her excessive excitement, causing Xiao Jin to get a bit frightened and emit anxious meows toward EU. Observing the adorable kitty, EU's curiosity is piqued, and she eagerly inquires about its name. Etienne introduces Xiao Jin to her. Excitedly, EU grabs Xiao Jin and dashes off, leaving Etienne seemingly disappointed by her swift departure. Captain Galewolf finds amusement in the situation, teasing Etienne that he probably didn't anticipate EU choosing Xiao Jin over him. Etienne exchanges greetings with Captain Galewolf, expressing gratitude for his efforts, resulting in EU becoming a martial apprentice. Exiting the practice hall, they take a leisurely stroll through the streets. Captain Galewolf assumes that Etienne is already aware of the Iron Fang base's invasion. Confirming his knowledge, Etienne inquires about the situation at home. Assuring Etienne of their safety, Captain Galewolf assures him that their current location has always been one of the most secure. He then reveals that after Etienne's departure, a girl named Xiao Yu had visited and left something behind. Presenting a token, Captain Galewolf explains that Xiao Yu claimed the Iron Fang base wouldn't dare to cause trouble after seeing this item, a token from the Martial Pavilion. Instantly recognizing the token, Etienne realizes its resemblance to the one possessed by Yu Ling. Captain Galewolf shares with Etienne that there hadn't been any significant reason to employ the token's power until a person named Sun Feng started repeatedly challenging Etienne to a death match. Etienne recalls the name vividly from the talent assessment at the city gates. Sun Feng, esteemed as one of the 4 great geniuses of the Iron Fang base, had been challenging elite martial warriors since entering the city, maintaining an undefeated record. Cautioning Etienne, Captain Galewolf emphasizes the need for caution in dealing with Sun Feng, highlighting the adversary's formidable prowess. Etienne seems lost in thought, causing Captain Galewolf to pause and redirect his attention. There was definitely something going on in Yi Tian's head, and he found this situation quite interesting. As Yi Tian leisurely strolls, a familiar scene unfolds once more, a reckless figure speeding on a bike, attempting dangerous stunts and exhibiting disrespectful behavior. To Yi Tian's disdain, the person on the bike turns out to be none other than Sun Feng. Yi Tian gives Sun Feng a quizzical side-eye glance as their encounter begins. Sun Feng, seemingly pleased that Yi Tian has returned, confronts him directly. Assertively, he informs Yi Tian of his purpose, inviting him to a duel at Manhwa Plaza the following morning at 10. He proposes a wager, a bronze rank blade skill, and challenges Yi Tian, questioning whether he truly dares to accept the duel. Observing Sun Feng's current status, Yi Tian decides to utilize his unique ability to copy Sun Feng's high-tier cultivation talent. Assuring Sun Feng of his participation, Yi Tian gladly accepts the duel. As the conversation concludes, Yi Tian successfully replicates Sun Feng's high-tier cultivation talent. Sun Feng then bids Yi Tian farewell, informing him that he'll be awaiting their encounter at the appointed place and time before departing. After Sun Feng's departure, Captain Galewolf expresses concern to Yi Tian, deeming his impulsive actions unwise. He's aware of Sun Feng's incomprehensible strength, certain that with Yi Tian's current abilities, victory would be unlikely. Yi Tian hadn't considered this aspect. That night, seated in contemplation, Yi Tian reflects on his strengths and talents. Despite his cultivation talent already being high tier, he resolves to stack another talent. Merging the talent he acquired from Sun Feng, Yi Tian swiftly elevates his cultivation talent to the apex tier. Exiting his room, Yi Tian steps onto the balcony, gazing into the darkness, and expresses his anticipation for tomorrow's duel. His eagerness is palpable as he looks forward to the impending challenge. At Manhwa Plaza, Sun Feng patiently waits near the Lin family's merit monument for his opponent. Observing the gathering crows, discussions circulate about Sun Feng's choice of a new location and his undefeated record in previous duels. Gossip revolves around Sun Feng's mysterious opponent, a person named Yi, unheard of among the onlookers. As the conversation unfolds, one man in the crowd enlightens the others, revealing that Sun Feng's opponent is Yi Tian, described as still a youngster. Puzzled by Sun Feng's choice of a young adversary, the crowd questions why he would challenge someone like Yi Tian. The murmurs continue among the crowd, predicting potential destruction of the Lin family's merit monument. Speculation arises that Sun Feng deliberately targets such monuments during duels to undermine influential families, particularly as the Iron Fang base aims to diminish prominent families' power. The focus shifts to the Lin family, the current leader, as the crowd suspects that they might be Sun Feng's intended target this time. Amidst the crowd, two women stand out, Yu Ling and Xiao Yu. Impatience grips Xiao Yu as she questions Yu Ling about Yi Tian's potential arrival. Concerned, she expresses worry for Yi Tian. Assuring Xiao Yu, Yu Ling exudes confidence, believing that even if Yi Tian can't beat Sun Feng, he'll undoubtedly survive the duel. Soon after, Yi Yu arrives, taken aback by the sizable crowd gathered to witness the duel. Accompanied by Captain Galewolf, Yi Yu learns that Sun Feng deliberately cultivates such a rowdy atmosphere during his duels to exert influence. However, Yi Yu is more concerned about maneuvering through the large crowd, feeling overwhelmed by the situation. Feeling uneasy about the circumstances, Yi Yu suggests to her elder brother that they should retreat, deeming the duel too perilous amidst the large and potentially volatile audience. With a comforting pat on Yi Yu's head, Yi Tian reassures her not to worry, promising her that he'll return shortly. Gathering his resolve, Yi Tian takes a mighty leap, landing firmly on the battleground, ready to face the challenge ahead. Amidst the murmurs and curiosity among the crowd, Yi Tian's arrival sparks discussions, with many deducing that he's the person Sun Feng challenged. Straightening himself, Yi Tian acknowledges the crowd, expressing gratitude for their patience in waiting for him. Sun Feng, however, seems perturbed by Yi Tian's appearance, expressing irritation that Yi Tian had the audacity to show up. In an assertive move, Sun Feng showcases a bronze rank sword skill, declaring that if Yi Tian wins, he can claim it. Yi Tian counters, revealing a Shadow Blade book as his offering, confident it matches Sun Feng's standards. In a bold display, Yi Tian flings the Shadow Blade book towards the displayed bronze rank skill book, aiming to match or surpass Sun Feng's challenge. The clash of the books on the ground symbolizes the stake of the impending duel. Sun Feng, displeased by Yi Tian's gesture, labels him as arrogant, indicating his disapproval of Yi Tian's actions. Amidst the tension-filled atmosphere, Sun Feng swiftly unsheathes his blade, lunging at Yi Tian with a swift attack. As the crowd becomes increasingly agitated, Yi Yu's voice pierces through the commotion, a desperate scream warning Yi Tian about the imminent assault. However, Etienne stands prepared, unfazed by the sudden aggression, ready to confront this extraordinary battle head-on. Sun Feng leaps ahead, initiating his initial strike against Etienne. However, Etienne effortlessly evades the attack, stunning Sun Feng with his remarkable speed. Etienne's agility is truly remarkable. Despite Sun Feng's subsequent flurry of strikes, Etienne gracefully sidesteps each one. Frustrated by Etienne's evasion, Sun Feng taunts him, questioning if he's a rat in the zodiac, insinuating that all Etienne does is dodge and flee. Continuing his relentless assault, Sun Feng persistently launches attacks, managing to sever a few strands of Etienne's hair. Enraged by this act, Etienne retaliates vehemently, delivering a single, forceful punch that shatters both Sun Feng's bones and spirit in one fell swoop. Helpless, Sun Feng fails to evade the overwhelming strike, taking the full force of the blow. The audience is astounded as they witness Etienne's incredible display of power, wondering about the identity of this remarkable individual. Turning back to Sun Feng, Etienne questions if he still perceives him as a rat after successfully counterattacking. Sun Feng, acknowledging his opponent's prowess, expresses admiration for Etienne's skills. In response, Sun Feng resolves to cease holding back and promises to intensify his efforts. It appears that Sun Feng was preparing to elevate his tactics before launching another assault. Employing the wind-slash technique, Sun Feng's moves proved effective, yet Etienne adeptly dodged every slash. However, amidst the dodging, one of Sun Feng's slashes precisely cleaved the Lin family's merit monument in perfect halves. Lin Mingjai, furious at Sun Feng's actions, vehemently condemns him for this disgraceful act against the Lin family. As the continuous onslaught ceases, Etienne acknowledges his opponent, admitting that this time he narrowly avoided danger. He commends Sun Feng for his impressive sword skills, acknowledging their remarkable nature. Meanwhile, Sun Feng is shocked to witness Etienne's successful evasion of his wind-slash technique. Etienne reveals to Sun Feng that prolonging the fight was worthwhile solely to observe the sword skill. Sun Feng is further shocked to realize that Etienne hadn't engaged in combat because he desired to witness the technique. Etienne chuckles ominously, asserting that he never considered Sun Feng as a worthy adversary and implies that Sun Feng never held the status of an opponent for him either. It becomes evident that Etienne's intention was to use the confrontation as a means to assess the sword skill. Infuriated by Etienne's revelation, Sun Feng lashes out, accusing Etienne of taking things too far. Determined, Sun Feng declares it's time for his ultimate attack, launching the strike while demanding Etienne's defeat. Etienne, prepared for Sun Feng's attack, swiftly retaliates. With a single punch, he shatters Sun Feng's blade into two pieces, sending one half flying into the distance. Seizing Sun Feng's face with his hand, Etienne forcefully smashes it into the ground, shocking the onlookers with the sudden turn of events. Sun Feng lies incapacitated, nearly broken and defeated. Expressing his disappointment, Etienne deems the duel extremely dull. Xiao Yu, unable to contain her excitement, praises Sir Etienne, acknowledging the incredible display. Yu Ling, impressed by Etienne's strength, now harbors confidence in his potential joining her martial pavilion, certain that his inclusion is inevitable. Resistance, she believes, would be futile. Etienne excitedly rummages through the debris, finally retrieving the wind-slash technique book, expressing gratitude to Sun Feng for it. Eager to examine the book, he's interrupted by Yu's enthusiastic approach. Yu admires her brother's newfound strength, considering him amazing, prompting Etienne to playfully tease her. She requests her brother to teach her these techniques upon their return, expressing her own desire for becoming strong. Subsequently, Etienne, accompanied by Yu and Captain Galewolf, departs from the scene. Meanwhile, Lin Zi informs Lin Mingjai of young Master Etienne's victory, but Lin Mingjai feels sorrowful, considering their family to have lost due to the fallen Lin family's merit monument. Seeking guidance, Lin Zi inquires about their next steps. Lin Mingjai instructs Lin Zi not to guard him for several days, directing him instead to protect Etienne's sister, Yu. Aware of the repercussions from the Sun family, Lin Mingjai anticipates that this matter won't be easily dismissed. The three of them return to Captain Galewolf's house. Etienne then delves into the wind-slash technique book, discovering that it amplifies attack power by 6-fold, explaining the sheer strength behind Sun Feng's slashes. He casually tosses the book onto the table and stretches before deciding to check his current status. Upon accessing the status window, Etienne realizes there are still 30 more days before he can copy a new talent, annoyed by this persistent limitation. Etienne laments this drawback and resigns himself to waiting for the cooldown to conclude before he can copy and merge Sun Feng's high-tier sword talent. Anticipating the end of the cooldown, he envisions a time, 30 days later, when he can fully unleash the combined potential of the Shadow Blade and Wind Slash technique, Etienne eagerly looks forward to attaining power 2 ranks above his current level, an ability that he believes would be sufficient to confront even a Grandmaster. This was exactly what meant to be truly powerful. EU was engrossed in practicing various techniques to rapidly strengthen herself. Captain Galewolf, understanding the aftermath of the duel's conclusion, foresaw the likelihood of revenge from the Sun family in due course, considering the typical reactions of prestigious families. He pondered over what might happen to her during that time. Amidst her rigorous training, EU takes a break, opening a bottle of water to quench her thirst. She notices Captain Galewolf's gaze fixed on her and questions his attention. Taken aback, Captain Galewolf requests a moment with her. EU approaches him inquiring about the matter. He clasps a chain with a pendant around her neck, advising her to wear it consistently and not remove it. Intrigued, EU admires the ornament, deeming it pretty. Captain Galewolf emphasizes its significance, likening it to an amulet, and urges her to ensure it's never lost. Grateful, EU expresses her thanks and pledges to take utmost care of it. A member of Captain Galewolf's team rushes in search of him, excited to share some obtained information. She briefs the captain about her findings regarding the Sun family's activities. The team member reveals that the Sun family has been scouting various shops, supposedly for setting up a business. However, it's evident that establishing a business isn't their primary agenda. Despite this, the Sun family seems composed, not rushing into any drastic actions. Captain Galewolf deduces that they won't resort to violence until they've solidified their foothold. Amidst their conversation, an individual lurks nearby, ostensibly disposing of trash, but covertly observing these two talking, gathering crucial information. A month later, Etienne catches sight of the same individual lingering near the trash cans. Using his mental ability, Etienne investigates, causing the man, revealed as Lindsay, to become aware of Etienne's scrutiny. Lindsay is puzzled by how Etienne acquired such an ability, usually exclusive to great martial warriors. Etienne, too, is taken aback, surprised that the Lin family would assign a high-ranking martial warrior to guard his house, a notably generous move. Later, Etienne visits the martial marketplace with a specific purpose in mind. During the previous month, Captain Galewolf unearthed information regarding the Sun family's history. The Sun family had resorted to intermarrying to uphold the purity of their sword talent. If a child born displayed any imperfections, the family would handle the matter discreetly. This was indeed an exceptionally crazy family. At the Sun family's shop, Sun Feng made a spectacle of promotions, announcing a grand opening celebration with a 50% discount on all items. A group of men gathered outside offered their congratulations and wishes for Sun Feng's prosperity, enthusiastically accepting his invitation to enter. However, the atmosphere took an unexpected turn when Etienne arrived. His intentions diverged significantly from the conventional well-wishing. Etienne, a figure known for his unpredictability, a boy full of surprises, arrived not to congratulate but to wish Sun Feng an early death. At the South Hill Cemetery, Etienne pays a visit to his parents after an extended period. Offering flowers at their tomb, he bows in respect, expressing his plans to relocate EU to a better place, soon departing from the Lin High base. Etienne shares his growth, wanting to show his parents the strong man he's become now. However, amidst this moment, an unexpected attack strikes Etienne from behind. Swiftly evading, he confronts the assailant who reveals himself. Drawing a weapon, the man acknowledges Etienne's prowess, mentioning his defeat of Sun Feng. Etienne, expecting this encounter, derides the man as nothing more than a loyal follower, more like the dog of the Sun family. Both engaged in a rapid exchange of blows, with Etienne's opponent asserting that sparing Etienne's life after the duel prevented certain rumors from surfacing. Claiming credit for Etienne's extended life, the adversary taunts him. Etienne, weary of the taunting, launches into another intense round of combat. In a provocative move, the Sun family's dog desecrates the flowers Etienne placed as a tribute to his deceased parents. Revealing his identity as Sun Feng's mentor, Kai Meng, he cites a paternal bond with Sun Feng and vows retribution for Etienne's injury to Sun Feng. Kai Meng asserts that Etienne's demise is now inevitable. Kai Meng disdainfully remarked about the cemetery being a fitting place for a demise, goading Etienne. While Kai Meng continued his verbal assault, Yi Tian calmly retrieved the displaced flowers, setting them back in their rightful place. Kai Meng persisted in belittling Yi Tian, offering a twisted proposal. If Yi Tian kneeled and begged, Kai Meng would demonstrate some clemency by burying Yi Tian alongside his deceased parents. Yi Tian paid no heed to this nefarious individual's nonsensical blabbering until Kai Meng mentioned Yi Tian's younger sister. Kai Meng sneered, insinuating that Yi would soon meet a similar fate. This last jab pierced Yi Tian's patience, goading him to clench his fists and gather his strength. It wasn't Yi Tian's fault. Kai Meng had now asked for death. Without hesitation, Yi Tian activated his apex tier speed talent, swiftly launching an attack on Kai Meng. Caught off guard, Kai Meng couldn't evade the assault, falling victim to Yi Tian's decisive strike. Yi Tian seized the scoundrel and forcefully slammed him onto the ground, rendering Kai Meng incapacitated. As Yi Tian approached him, Kai Meng grasped the truth. Yi Tian had ascended to the rank of Grandmaster. People always tend to understand things better when death is near. After thoroughly searching Kai Meng's dead body, Yi Tian uncovered a few valuable items. A book detailing the Twilight Blade technique caught his eye, promising a formidable blade skill. He also discovered superior weapons compared to his previous arsenal, now his to claim. Realizing the time, Yi Tian hurried home for dinner, aware that Yi would nag him if he were late again. Later that night, as Yi Tian neared home, he spotted the familiar figure of the mysterious spy, Lin Zi. Initially passing by without a word, he suddenly halted and retraced his steps, approaching the old man. With confidence, Yi Tian mentioned that it had been a month and extended an invitation for water. Lin Zi chuckled, removing his cap, and accepted Yi Tian's offer, expressing his trust in Yi Tian's care. Together, they headed to Captain Galewolf's residence. As they entered, Yi Tian welcomed Lin Zi in. Yi greeted her brother, surprised by the oddly dressed guest. Captain Galewolf approached, inquiring about the newcomer. Lin Zi introduced himself as the elder from the Lin family, prompting a moment of surprise for Captain Galewolf, who suddenly realized Lin Zi's true identity as the legendary Elder Zi from the tales. Lin Zi graciously acknowledges Captain Galewolf's praise, modestly downplaying his own stature. Meanwhile, Yi announced that the tea was ready. Captain Galewolf eagerly offered to serve it, expressing his intention to handle the task of honoring their guest, much to Yi's surprise. Witnessing this side of her master was a pleasant revelation for her, and she secretly enjoys it. Accepting the tea offered by Captain Galewolf, Lin Zi then turned to the matter at hand, suggesting that Yi Tian must have something important to discuss for inviting him in. Agreeing, Yi Tian approached Yi and then requested Lin Zi's assistance in escorting Yi to Miss Yu Ling at the Martial Pavilion. This unexpected request surprised Yi, who was playing with Xiao Jin. Lin Zi took note of Yi's Martial Pavilion token and, after sipping his tea, seemed surprised by Yi Tian's connections with the Martial Pavilion. Placing his teacup down, Lin Zi assured Yi Tian that he would take care of Yi's escort to Miss Yu Ling, relieving Yi Tian of any further concern. Yi Tian, before leaving, aimed to offer Captain Galewolf an opportunity. As Captain Galewolf nervously switched out the tea leaves, Yi Tian introduced him to Lin Zi as his brother, Zhang Feng, highlighting his loyalty and courage. Yi Tian suggested that if Zhang Feng were to join the Lin family, he'd surely carve a noteworthy path for himself. This sudden turn of events left Zhang Feng utterly surprised, his anxiety peaking at the unexpected situation. Lin Zi gladly accepts Yi Tian's suggestion, stating that the Lin family always embraces the ambitious. He declares that Zhang Feng will be his disciple moving forward. Yi Tian eagerly encourages Zhang Feng to greet his new master, pushing him forward. Nervously, Zhang Feng falls off to his knees and bows before Lin Zi, showing his respect. Lin Zi acknowledges him and bids him to rise, pleased with establishing a connection with Yi Tian through these tasks, considering it a significant accomplishment for the Lin family. Meanwhile, Yi catches hold of Yi Tian and questions him about his plans. She senses that something significant is afoot since he entrusted both of them to others' care. Yi Tian attempts to explain that he's dealing with minor issues, but Yi immediately sees through his lie. She confronts him, warning that those matters couldn't possibly be minor, and insists that he shouldn't hide anything from her. Despite her agitation, Yi Tian remains calm, assuring Yi that it's truly a small matter and promising to return soon. He tries to reassure her by mentioning that Xiao Jin will protect her in his absence, but Yi remains skeptical about Xiao Jin's capabilities, unsure if the little cat is really that strong. She sighs, realizing that persuading Yitan otherwise is futile, knowing he won't heed her advice. Yu then urges Yitan to take care of himself and not to overexert, emphasizing the importance of safety above all else. Yitan agrees to her without arguing any further. At the Sun Group compound late at night, the guards conversed about the futility of their night shifts, confident that no trouble would dare approach the Sun family's territory. However, one guard noticed a figure strolling around. The guard hastily approached him, calling him an ignorant idiot, and rudely demanding the person to leave as he wasn't allowed in here. Unfortunately, the guard had really got the wrong person, Yitan, and aggressively confronted him. Without engaging in discussion, Yitan swiftly countered with an attack that left the guard in a state of shock and fear. The guard, visibly shaken, questioned Yitan's presence, to which Yitan boldly retorted that he was simply clearing up some trash. In the midst of the chaos, emergency alarms blare, signaling an intruder on the premises. A frantic guard rushes to inform the boss about the intrusion and the injuries inflicted on their people. Surprisingly, the boss reacts with enthusiasm, considering the Lin High base to be home to mere cowards. He gleefully welcomes this intrusion, and he was glad now that someone finally came to die. Here's the video ends. Guys, if you like this recap, then like the video. I will meet you in another video. Till then, bye.